west side. I've been knocked out, was a nice try, but I guess I get to keep my head on this time. God of the creation, the relations I've got, the only one that keeps me safe, the only one you should trust. For sure, it ain't right that I have checked the speck of dust from all of its side. Fall down, that from my height, cause I didn't see the plank I have in my eye. What you hear in yourself when no one's to be found? What keeps you eased out? What takes you off your mind?
Guess you want this, I've won this. Everybody in this, we should have it. Stop illusions, it's in your hands. Show yourself, reveal it to them. Take the time to recognize it. You won't leave me even if I tried it. You're the artist in the mess and happily perform the new in your hands.
Big dog status, I'm a big dog vet. I pull up on the block in a big Corvette. Yeah. Ride around the city with a stick all black. Try with a stroke, but we ain't with all that. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Made $1 million and I can't go back. Got a lot of jewelry on me, man, can't hold that. 12 asking better, tell him that I ain't so crack. Know your money long when your people can't afford that. I'm ballin', yeah. My mama told me that did my calling. I keep that stick, I don't do no brawling. Open out the doors and let them all in here. Yeah, they all in here. Ooh, big dog. We come out the pound, so we big dog. Heavy paddock, gonna break my wrist off. I'm young, out of rocket, about to lead dog. 3, 2, 1, I got big dog status, I'm a big dog vet.
What is up, entrepreneurs? Welcome to the Friday Live Helpcast with me, your hostess, the mostess, Diana Gladney. As you can see, all of the icons are on the screen. That is intentional. I didn't forget a setting. It is on purpose. And today, we're going to be going through the most frustrating things that you may be dealing with if you are a loved one, okay? Out here in these real and digital streets, running into issues with using your camera, or just getting your lights right, just getting your audio right. Whatever the case is, we're going to be diving into it. Welcome to the Friday Live Helpcast. Again, with me, your hostess, the mostess. We are live on YouTube, LinkedIn, and allegedly Instagram, because apparently if you click on any other tab other than the main deal, it just disappears. So Instagram, I can't find you on the phone. I can't find you on the computer. So we're blind out here in the wind for that. Only thing I can know to do is maybe start another one if allegedly I can do that midstream. But drop your questions in the live chat. Start with a Q and a colon, and then I'll be able to find your comments, questions easier with the what you're doing. So let's talk about the icons and the stuff, hashtag things on the screen. Matter of fact, let me take this buy me a coffee link off of there. So this is what you'll usually see on your camera. This is not a recording. I'm live. So right now we got Lula over in the chat. What's up, Lula? Good to see you. Glad that you are here. And so this is not, like I said, it's not a recording. It's actually me here with you. And so you'll see all around the screen, all the different stuff that you'll usually see when you're recording your own videos. This is a Sony camera menu, but all cameras in the most general sense are pretty much the same. They're not specific in that way. So whether it's dealing with other content creation stuff as well, it doesn't have to be specifically with this, because after a while, I'm probably going to turn this off just so it looks normal. Or we can stay here, because I don't think we're going to be streaming. We definitely ain't streaming for no 5-hour energy live stream today. Okay. It's just not happening. So let's talk about some of the stuff on the stream. But real quick, shout out to one of the previous attendees for last week's live stream. Got a comment that came in this past week saying, "Hi, Lady D. I'm Divine Chat Night at Africa's their channel YouTube name, saying I heeded your advice last Friday on how to place my lights. I had near perfect lighting during my 90-minute show. Mighty thanks. That is what I am talking about. That is dope to hear. Always amazing and fun, and just good to see you guys getting results, because it doesn't have to be hard and difficult. It just usually sometimes is, or maybe it's not necessarily the camera setting stuff. It just is more so the psychological stuff, because that's the thing too. So getting past and sometimes over the things that you have to deal with to create is a real deal. So, excuse me. So that's a thing. So real quick though, also, as you notice, I usually have my regular Shure SM7B. I've been meaning to do this all last week, but I've been talking about these that came in, which is my brother from another mother, which is Doc to the Rizok. This is his Doc Pops. So Instagram might just close that window because I don't think they're coming back. But this is his Doc Pops. And so these are customizations that you can put onto your microphones. It's not only specific to these models. You'll have to look at the description because you will see that it's for other ones. And he has a ton of different colors. Well, little did I know, in the mail comes an actual Doc Pop. So I'm going to pop this on here for my Shure SM7Bs. Try to make this as quiet as possible. Matter of fact, I'm gonna mute for a second just so you'll have to. Boom, branded Doc Pop in the business, and they definitely pop. You don't notice how dull, and I guess in some instances fine, but you never know how dull it is until you're like that. It's really vibrant. Also got some other colors out here as well, as signature Doc Purple, and then the orange, which kind of reminds me of Ecamm, honestly. So, all right, so let's get into some camera setting stuff. Again, if you guys have questions, put Q: in the chat. All right, so let's go around the settings and the whatnot. First and foremost, audio. Right here, top right, this is what you want to be looking for. Obviously, it's not hitting where you would want to because I'm using a podcast style microphone, but you can connect to your camera. Super easy to do. But right up here, your audio levels. I just actually responded to a comment somebody left on a short that I had about programming this C1 button right here. Let me block my face. C1 button right there, that first button, usually like on the Sony cameras now, you'll see that like the bokeh button or whatever. You don't need that because you're not going to be changing your aperture that often. And so it's a fun feature, but it's not something you're going to need. What you're going to need to change most of the time, 9 times out of 10, is your audio levels, guaranteed. So you need to go ahead and set that C1, that custom button up there, usually the bokeh button, change it to the audio button. So it's easy to change that stuff, super duper easy. Sometimes it's like the stuff that eats into your recording time, inefficiencies. So always those micro inefficiencies that add up over time wind up being a huge deal. Saying Nicole Saint Leon, good to see you. Glad that you are here. Saying that blue, I know it pops. Like, I'm not a big color person, to be honest with you. And I was like, I don't know. Let's see, because I was curious. He didn't tell me what colors he was going to send me, but it definitely pops. I'll occasionally be putting on these others, but these ones are actually really nice. And I guess depending on what your brand colors are, whatever it's close to, those are really good. So links in the description, dyna.link/docpops, DOCPOPPS, if you want to grab one. But yeah, this blues it's resonating with me. You know what I mean? So, all right, what else we got going on here? So you got your audio, of course. Lighting is going to be the next biggest thing. It's that Alvis hierarchy of investments, but it's also the best way to kind of like address and start fixing settings. I talk about this in my best-selling book, The One Right Video, but it's just an acronym: audio, lighting, video. Then you want to start looking at your accessories, and then your softwares, and then your systems. So audio is always going to be first. If you don't know, I don't have a cable near me. I have to get one out the other thing. But at the very end, if you look at wired headphones that you have, if you're using a wired microphone or a shotgun microphone or whatever, you'll see those black rings on the end. At the very end, it'll be 2 or 3 of those. Sometimes you'll see 1, but for what you're going to be needing most of the time for your content, it's going to be 2 or 3. And so what you'll see on the very end is going to be those 2, and it'll be tip, ring, sleeve, or tip, ring, sleeve, depending on what it is. So it's TRS or TRS. The very easiest way to break that down, you need the one with 2 black bands on them, on the tip of that end of the microphone port, if you're going to put this into your camera. Basic stuff, but easy to remember. And then you'll need 3 of those. It's TRRS, or tip ring sleeve. You need 3 of those black bands if you're going to be putting this into your phone or into your computer. And that's why sometimes you'll get a microphone or a lapel or whatever, and it has those little adapters on there. But audio is like super easiest thing ever. So I'm not going to keep this. We're just going to go around the icons and whatnot, just kind of help pinpoint some stuff that usually is an issue. And then based on some comments and stuff that I got over these last 2 weeks on the channel based on different stuff, because new cameras are coming out. We've talked about that a lot with the new Sony ZV-E10 Mark II. The Mark II of this camera, this is filmed on the Sony ZV-E1. So the menus would look a little different, but like I said, all this stuff is universal. Kind of doesn't matter what camera, whatever you're using. It's gonna be the same. So let's get into the lighting. Like I said, ALVAS. Just remember that, make your life so much easier. So lighting is going to be the thing that we talked about with the comment that Chat Night Africa was dealing with and running into some issues that we fixed and addressed on the stream. Well, simple test I like to do, palm test. Hands a little oily right now, so you're gonna get a little extra shine here, but usually it's like the palm test. Wherever I'm actually gonna be sitting, just hold your hand up to your face the light. Diffusion is your friend. Softens that light, makes you look a whole lot better because it doesn't look like literally a deer in headlights. Nobody have time for all of that extra stuff you be trying to deal with all the time, just trying to fix little things. Hot spots. When you're doing lighting, it's easy to figure out like where stuff is getting off. Palm test and then check for hot spots. Like I said, palm test, sit where you're gonna sit, face your lighting, keep it soft, back here. Boom. Easy. As long as you can see the details of your hand on this side and on this side, you'll be close to being better. Then, wrong side. See down here where it says that plus 0.7? That is that multimeter. We're not going to do like, again, this is just a quick overview, like to help make stuff a little bit easier, bring you behind the scenes of like what I see when I'm creating. Because if I'm sitting down to do one of the videos where you would see me at my desk, these are the exact settings that I use, the exact same stuff that I use for the live stream. I don't have to change anything. I'm a huge proponent of the set it and forget it lifestyle, especially when it comes to creating. I am not for that, let's keep figuring it out. Every time you sit down, you got to refigure it out. No, you figure it out once. And at best, you have to make micro changes, like little bitty things like, you switched your microphone or something like that. And so you're changing things. You get a better lens. And so now you're changing the aperture, stuff like that. So it doesn't have to be super technical. And a lot of times, quiet is kept. With the newer cameras, you can put it in auto, lock the settings. And if you needed to get by, that would get you by. But I highly encourage you to get the most out of what you're doing. Get the most. Like, you're spending a ton of money and investing it into the camera. Let it actually be an investment and yield a return. And so this is the kind of stuff that saves you on time and all of that stuff. So like I said, it doesn't have to be just camera specific stuff. I'm just hitting this right at the front part of the stream. And then like I said, I'm probably going to turn these settings off, but dealing with some of the other issues that you might run into when you're just creating content as well. But we definitely are going to be doing a 5-hour energy live stream today. All right, so like I said, you got your lighting. For the most part, diffusion is your friend. Moving on, exposure triangle. Exposure triangle is huge. Most people kind of get this off, but we'll start here. 4K 24p, just choose what you want. It can be 4K, it could be 1080p, and then you choose if you want it to be 24, 30, 60, 120 frames per second if you, for whatever reason, are filming like that, but most of the time it's going to be 30 or 24. So you choose to do whatever it is that you want to do, whereas that's concerned. Then, depending on what this number is, if you choose 24, it needs to be 148. You'll see me breaking this rule. And that's a fun feature if you are getting like, if you do have the A6700, or if you have the Sony ZV-E10 Mark II, or any of these newer cameras that are coming out. I don't know if the Sony A7 IV has it. The Sony FX30 might have it, maybe, or it would have gotten it via firmware allegedly. So it depends. It depends. But this, I'm gonna tell you a reason why I'm breaking that, and it's a really amazing feature that you're going to want to use. It will save you a ton of hell when you're creating. So, like I said, you got this, get my pointing right, 24 frames per second, 30 frames per second, whatever it is that you want to do, is up to you. Usually, whatever that number is, 24 or 30p, just double it, times 2. That would be 1/48th or 1/50th of a shutter speed, depending on how close you want to get, and then 1/60th, or you'll usually just see it as a number. But down here, you'll see me breaking this rule, and it's way higher. It doesn't necessarily need to be this high, But that new setting and feature in your camera, if you have one of the more recent ones, and again, it not that you have to, but it's just nice when you do see this kind of stuff, and that's the anti-flicker setting. So all of these other lights are video lights with the exception of the ceiling light. It's just a bulb that's specific to the temperature that I would need for matching the room. And then this light back here is an IKEA light behind the bookshelf, or an IKEA RGB bulb. So you don't have to use video lights, but it helps so that they don't have flickers. That light will flicker and you'll see banding or that rolling image or whatever the case is. So you turn that on, that anti-flicker setting does some amazing magic that I'm not going to get into details about, but it basically reads all the data coming from the light. So it's like, okay, what do we need to be at so that we don't show flickering? And then it does that. So that's why that setting differs. So real quick, let's pause and get into some questiones. So Melanie, good to see you. Glad that you're here. Hair looks pretty in your photo. Saying, I heard 30 frames per second is better for Instagram Reels. Any insights about that? It's a personal preference. Honestly, I found greater value in switching the resolution, which is like 4K, 24p, or whatever. What if you're new to all this stuff, 24p like Melanie's talking about, or 30 frames per second is the frame rate. Most of the time, 30p is probably best for all of these platforms, especially even if you're on like Zoom calls and stuff. The reason why that would be is because everything is formatted around 30 frames per second. It's kind of standard with what you would see with television, or would better match up, in simple terms, would better match up with what you would see in television, 30 or 60 frames per second. That's why, like, so right now it's the Olympics on, right? Okay, well, you're gonna see a lot of stuff where they can instantly take that footage, slow it down and all that, but play it normally in TV. So it's be between 30 and 60 frames per second, depending on what you're doing. For Instagram though, nobody cares. Most phones are gonna be in 30 frames per second by like default, but I've had greater value. I film everything. I don't change, like if you look at my reels on Instagram, just at Diana Gladney, I don't change what my stuff is. I just still do 24 frames per second because that's what I want. So it's not that it won't be able to read it or that it won't look great or anything like that. It's just simply trying to best match with what the platform already gets. So straight out your phone, it may be already in 30 frames per second. So it's just a preference. But what I find with most of these platforms, you're going to have greater enhancements to your quality just simply switching from 1080p to 4K, because even though it will condense and compress, you'll hear it like compression or whatever, I like to just think of it like it's squeezed down into a smaller package. So way more data, way more quality, way sharper image, looks sharper and crispier. It's just squeezed down to fit into that smaller 1080p file when they are done doing whatever they do to it. So I still do 4K 24. I don't change anything for any platform, but it's just, that's solely a preference. So that's the only thing. It won't make your reels do better or anything like that. So hopefully that answered that for you. Words for Change podcast saying, question, I struggle with finding the right look, i.e. warm versus cool, the ISO low versus high, particularly as a high yellow brother. What's the best way to determine the right looks? Fantastic question, right where we are with stuff. So that's 100%. Exposure triangle is going to be like the biggest thing dealing with that, because like, okay, let's break this down piece by piece for what you're asking. So warm versus cool for the white balance, that's what's going to dictate that. I'm going to show you with the magic of Ecamm what that looks like for like my temperature. So right now you'll see it says 4,000 kelvins. That's what all the lights and stuff is set at, between 4,000, 4,500, whatever. But if I adjusted that and let's go cooler, this is what it looks like dropping that down so that it's cooler. But you also see how the white balance impacts your skin tones, makes you look super weird. So you can have all the other settings are fine. The white balance being off, you will look weird. Let's bring that up to about, drag it all the way down to the blue side. Let's bring that up even like 50%. It's not terrible though. So it's still cooler than it was, but it's still not terrible. So let's bring it back to where I had it, which was much warmer, so that you can actually see the brown hues in my skin. So if you find where, if I'm dragging this down cooler and cooler, so let me turn this around so you can see the lighter part of my hand. So let's put it back to where I had it. It's all white balance, okay? Let's drag that down to the blue side. You'll see I'm losing warmth in my hand, in my face, in my cheeks, all of that. It's just getting cooler. It's not necessarily terrible, but it's definitely getting cooler. Now you're actually seeing that noticeable tint in the walls even. They don't look normal, or more or less, they look bluish. So if you see this kind of stuff in your videos, you can warm that up a little bit. So let me put it back to where I had it, so you can see all the warmth come back in or whatever. And it's like, and that is based on a gray card. My gray card is back in my book bag. You just take a picture essentially, or you'll see it a white card, whatever. It's gray on one side, white on the other side. I'm not gonna get into technical stuff like that, but take a picture of it. You don't want to set it based off of a white piece of printer paper or whatever. Just get a gray card. It's like $7. Matter of fact, we can pull that up on Amazon and I will show you exactly what that looks like. So I've had the same gray card since 2017. I've not had to change it, like, or it's not ripped. It's not like I travel with it. It works perfectly fine. Alrighty, so let's go here. I'm gonna switch out. Alrighty, gray card. And so you can get way more technical versions of this, but essentially, yeah, literally had this since 2017. So this is the gray card that I have and that I use. This is all I need. It's an 18% gray on one side. Again, it's very technical, but 18% gray on one side. None of that matters. Just hold it up to the light where you are, where you're gonna sit. Not close to the camera or nothing, just like where you are. So all the light is on you. You can be easily seen, all that. And then take the photo. It's a white balance setting on your camera. That's where you see that 4,000 kelvins in the bottom right of the screen, or let's see where it's at on for what everybody else is seeing. So it's my left here. So that 4,000 kelvins, that's a custom setting based on me using a gray card. So based on that, I just take that picture. I don't have to know a whole bunch about anything. Take the photo. That's it. Take the photo. It figures out what it needs to be based on that. The other thing that's like super helpful if you're recording at home or in a home office or anything like that, change your light bulbs for where you're recording at, or at least have bulbs for recording videos. It makes a whole heap of a difference, because what you'll wind up seeing is you either have a bulb that's super warm and mixed lighting, like your lights could be set at one thing, and then your like your camera lights are set at one thing, your house lights are set at something else. You got a lamp in the room that's set at something else, and you got all these different light temperatures. It's gonna start to look weird and wonky, and that is just not what you want. It like it makes life so much more difficult unnecessarily. So for that, what I'll do is change the bulb. Figure out what you need to do, like turn the lights off. I've talked about that before. Let's do this in real time. Alexa, turn the lights off. All right, so now there's nothing on but my ceiling light. Just that. So you can see what's being lit, but not me. So you can see all of what that light is doing, and then the little bit of light that you can see bouncing off my hand from the window that is closed, tinted, with the blinds is closed, tinted, and there's a sheer curtain just to further diffuse that. So I'm getting hardly no light other than ambient light from when I'm just sitting in here. But turn the lights off and figure out where the light sources that you're naturally just in the room, what are they doing? What are they doing for you, or what are they doing against you, right? Real quick, what's up? Alan Jones saying happy Diana, sharing some wisdom. Good to see you, Alan. Glad that you're here. Palestario Digita. All right, so I did pass Spanish with an A, but it's all beyond me now. So let me know how to pronounce that correctly. Good to see you. Glad that you're here. But yeah, turn all the lights off. Figure out what it's doing for you or what it's doing against you or whatever the case is. Alexa, turn the front light on. So now we have the front light on. You can see what that's doing. I can literally run the stream like this or do any of my videos here like this because I'm lit. You can change the background to be whatever you want or have it do whatever it is that you want to do. It's up to you. It's a preference at that point. Now, let's add in my other light that's on the side, but it's slightly behind me, so it's not directly on my face or nothing like that. Alexa, turn the side light on. All right, so now you see what that light is doing. It is roughly the same temperature, color temperature, like I said, down here, that 4,000 kelvins. I think these lights are set at 4,500 or whatever, and then this is set at 4,000 on the camera. It's just personal preference. That's it. But matter of fact, I'm gonna do this in the app so I don't have to keep waiting for Alexa to respond. But that's what I use to control my lights and stuff like that. I said I'd do a video on it. I have yet to record it because this week was not a great week for content. Just did not have the time. All right, so let's turn that side light off. And so if I just did this, let's go back to the white balance real quicksies. Like I said, and this is just solely in Ecamm that I'm making these adjustments. This is why you're not seeing it change on the camera. But if I adjust that temperature just with that one thing, the back wall has a blue tint to it. Like it's looking weird. Put my hand up, you see the lighter side of my hand. It's not a fun time. Put my temperature back to where I have. My skin looks great. The room, not so much. Even has looks like a greenish hue to it. Just turn on the side light. Now you can see what that light's doing. Fills in some of the sides, gives me a nice little fill in there, and then just brightens the room overall. Then I turn on my backlight. That just warms things up a bit more. With the RGB light, that's just solely, the backlight, that pink one, it's just aesthetic. It does nothing. The RGB light, it's just nothing. It does aesthetic, right? So you don't need a ton of lights, but over time you'll figure out like what you personally like. My thing first and foremost is skin. How is it making me look? White balance is going to impact that 100 times over 100 for a lot of stuff. So that's just the first part. So ISO though, so you're talking about your settings. Your ISO is based on your settings. There's no, and it's counterintuitive to even like the video sometimes that I feel like we have to make for YouTube so that when people search for that thing, it shows up and then we can tell you the truth of what you're looking for and how to get what you're trying to do. You know what I'm saying? So with that, there's no such thing as the best settings. So I can't say, I'll just set it to ISO such and such and you'll be great. It don't work like that. Your settings, your camera settings, like that I'm going to talk about in a second, is based on your environment. So once you decide if you're going to do 4K or 24p or whatever you want to do, it's a preference. You can do 4K 30, 4K 24, 1080p 30, 1080p 24. It's up to you, or even 60 frames per second. That is solely a preference. I like to do 4K 24. Now, based on that, like I said, that frame rate, 24 frames per second, whatever that number is, times 2, unless you break the rule like me down here, and you'll see why mine is not 1/48 of a second shutter speed. That's what this number is. This is now dealing with the exposure triangle. This is not that way because I'm using the anti-flicker setting on my camera. So like I said, if you get the ZV-2, A6700, what else came out? A7C2, all them other ones, A7CR, all that other cameras. They all have those now anti-flicker settings on there. So now my shutter speed would be different. I would have to literally get up to show you all of that. But that deals with motion blur. So if I wave my hand, you see very little motion blur, but not like what the eye would normally see. It's a little difference on camera. All right. So you set your shutter speed. Just say it's 1/48 of a second. All right. The aperture, this F number, pointing in the wrong area, that number, that is going to be based on your lens. It's not a camera thing. It's a lens thing. So that F28 is not as low as the lens can go, but it's where I want it to be. So you can kind of see some stuff. I don't need it to be an infinity blur in the background. It's just a preference. So F2.8 is just a preference, right? But it is as low as the lens can go. So this is the older Sony 16 f2.8 lens. This lens can only go f2.8, whereas the one on the camera can go down to f1.8. So you set that to what you want it to be at that point based on like what you are trying to do, background blur or not. You don't want any background blur, make that number higher. Go over f2.8, start going into f3.5, f5.6 or f6, whatever. Like go up, period. That gets rid of the background blur. You want more, go lower. That's how that works. Then, based on our lighting, because we need to get the lighting right first, then we need to go over to the ISO. My ISO is not, let's see, which finger is closer? This one's fine. ISO 2000 is not what this room would need if I didn't have my shutter speed higher. I think we need to do this in real time because otherwise I'm just talking jargon to you. So let's move a little bit closer. We're going to be getting very close and personal. I'm going to adjust this in real time so y'all can see. So let's put this to where it would usually need to be. I'm going to bring this ISO down. So just go down to 250. All right. Now, let us say, actually, I'm so used to touching the camera screen now. I can't get to my other settings. It's blocked. Oh, I would have to take my settings off. It's not gonna work. But usually, because I have my settings all set up for touch now, so that screws it up. But the ISO, shoot. Let's try and get back down to 2000. Get there. Yeah, it's not gonna work like I want it to because I got it plugged in. So how can I show you this? Maybe I can hook up this other camera and we'll see how she rolls. But the other thing is this, like your ISO, like I said, it's gonna be based on your lighting. It's more or less light sensitivity, okay? Easiest way to say it. The higher that number is, as you just saw, the brighter the image becomes. The lower that number is, the less bright that it becomes. Adjusting your shutter speed also impacts the light, but not just that, the motion blur. That's mostly what that's for. Your shutter speed is gonna deal with motion blur. You'll never see it in these kind of videos other than waving your hands and stuff like that if you talk with your hands, as I do. That's the only time you'll see that kind of stuff. Otherwise, like, you won't see it that much for real. See if I can hook up this other camera, and then maybe I can show you the shutter speed, because I'm like, it's plugged in, screen turns off, and I'm like, I don't think this is gonna work. But I got this other camera. Let's see if we can get it rolling and get a battery in there. Is why you have things within close proximities. And then we'll get to some of these other questions. I see y'all. I ain't gonna forget you. But shutter speed, like I said, the higher that number goes, the darker it becomes. The lower your shutter speed, this number over here, the lower that number, the brighter it becomes, which is why, but again, like I said, it deals with motion blur. A good example of this, if you ever watch those astrophotographers, they take photos of like the stars and all that stuff. They want a low aperture lens and all this stuff so they can see it. It brings as much light and all that as much as possible to the camera. But when you're doing videos, talking head videos, you're not going to see or need most of that, which is why you just go with the video rules of doubling whatever it is for the frame rate. All right, let's get this camera hooked up. And then let's see what we got here. She is ready to play. Alrighty, all right. Let's not do picture in picture. Let's pull her over yonder. So now you'll see with my ceiling fan on, this is just my laptop. All right. So let's turn on the camera settings on this one and you'll be able to see both of them in real time. And then I'll just prioritize this one so you don't have to stress trying to focus on what's what. All right, HDMI settings turn to on. HDMI info display. Hold on, I'm gonna have to unplug it. I wish we could just like have full access 100% of the camera, regardless as to if it was plugged in via HDMI or not. probably like cinema camera level stuff, but I careth not for getting a film camera. All right, so let's switch over. So this is just the full thing, as you can see. All right. So now, like I said, this is just my laptop. Nothing special. Like I said, my live stream settings, all that stuff like I showed you, right? All right, so now I'm going to switch it so that you can see those settings on the camera. All right. So once we switch over, let me take it off the screen for a second again and bring it down. All right, so once we switch over to it, you'll see the exact same way you see all these settings and all that. I'll just prioritize that one. We switch one more thing. Let's go HDI info on, and Bob's your uncle. And there she goes. Allegedly. Let me double check this. Is it because you're in 4K, HDMI 20? Yeah, I'm gonna have to adjust some stuff. Yeah, wasn't prepared to hook up 2 cameras, but I did bring it just in case. Wish I could just show you on this one. It'd be so much easier. But yeah, ISO and all that stuff, like I said, is based on your environment. What are your lighting setup? What's your lighting setup set up as? Then, what are you using for your aperture? You're usually going to set your shutter speed based on like I said, whatever that. If it's 24, if it's 30, do that. Preference is solely preference, but times 2 it. So if you're using 24, 148th, 30, 160th, unless you break the rules like I am. You'll see I'm using 119.9 super odd, but that's with the anti-flicker settings. So I set those first. Then we went into white balance, like I just showed you. You can look sick, or you can look and have a nice image that looks really good. So it's all a preference. Let's do this. 24 HDMI info on. All right. See if I can get the old girl to participate this fine and wonderful day. All right, then, like I said, your ISO, just it's brightness. But I showed that a little bit ago already. But if y'all got questions about other stuff, just drop it in the comments. I'm just trying to hook this other camera up so I can see if the old girl wants to participate. It's not showing the settings on the screen either. Oh, I know what it is. God daggone it. 4K input. There. Participate. There she is. One little freaking setting. My word. All right, so now let's switch over, and then I'll show you what I'm talking about with shutter speed. All right. So when you have your stuff on your camera, you'll see like this one is in 1080p, 24 frames per second. And then you have 1/60th for the shutter speed. But, and again, I don't know if I'll be able to change this in real time on this one. So ISO there. Okay, aperture's here set for this one. There she is. Now, the lower this number becomes, this is just my camera computer screen. The lower that number is, the brighter the image becomes. But the higher that number is, the darker the image becomes as well. You feel me? So if you keep making that number, you're up here where I am, you'll see how dark that image will become if I change that on my settings, on my regular camera. So you want to bring that, match whatever it is that your camera is. So if I'm doing 24, the closest I could get, it looks more like a fraction on this camera, but 1/50th for the shutter speed. The aperture, whatever I'm choosing to adjust it as, this number here, the F number, I can make that whatever I want. The higher this number is, the darker the image becomes. The lower this number is, the brighter the image becomes. And the other thing with that as well, the lower this number is, like f2.8 or lower, you're gonna get a nice blurry background. Okay, the lower the number, the blurrier the background. The higher that number is, the more we start going up, the more in focus you see everything, like a GoPro or your phone. Even if you don't have like the blur settings and all that stuff set on, then it'll look like how it looks, like a regular phone, like everything's in focus for the most part. So you see how now it's just like this, you're just looking at the computer screen. Now I've adjusted it because let's say I don't want anything blurry behind me. Let's say I'm at a concert or whatever, I want everything in focus, right? Okay, so let's say I needed to be at f6.3. ISO 500 is not going to work anymore. So the next thing I want to change then, based on my lighting hasn't changed in the room, then I would bring this up to that higher setting to kind of get back and match to where we were previously. So the ISO is gonna depend. But if we switch back real quick to like just my main camera settings, like what you're seeing directly out the, like this is exactly what my stuff is. If I switched my ISO and all of that based on all the other stuff I just mentioned, it's going to change the image ever so slightly. So ISO is something that you'll probably change the most often. This, imagine it with a lock symbol. I did this once before with the magic of Ecamm. We're going to do a lock symbol just so it resonates a bit more, because once you set it, you shouldn't have to change it again. So let's do this. So we're gonna put this lock up here. Once you figure out what you want your resolution to be, once you figure out what you want your other stuff to be, you lock it. Gonna put a nice little lock symbol right here. You lock it, don't change it. Then you figure out you want to do something else, add another one. Let me see if I can copy this. There she goes. So we figure out our resolution, all that stuff, fantastic. We don't need to mess with anything else. I figure out what my shutter speed needs to be. Based on that, I'm gonna put a lock next to it. I'm not changing it anymore. I'm gonna double this again, and then we'll bring her down here. So then I figure out how blurry do I want my background to be and all the rest of that. Say f2.8 for this image. That's as much background blur as I want. Great, I'm gonna put a lock next to it. I'm not gonna change it. So now, like I said, the white balance even, because I'm indoors, I'm not being impacted by the sun. Like I showed you what my light setup looks like and what I can turn and turn on. I'm gonna put a lock next to my white balance. So the only variable that we have left that we would change would be, where's a good finger? This one, ISO. That's the only thing that I would change depending, like let's say if you are using the sunlight or the window light or whatever, then I'm going to touch the ISO because there's no reason for me to touch anything else. But if we go back over to this other camera that's just pointing at my computer, let's say it gets super bright outside. I still want everything to be in focus. What can I change on this screen? What else could I change? Minus the lock symbols on this one. What else could I change on this one? I could change the ISO. I could bring that number down because that's the biggest number that I'm working with right now. So I could bring that number down if it get like super bright, right? But otherwise, let's say it don't. You can adjust the aperture, but like I said, your goal is now you want everything in focus. You're at a concert. So I could bring that brightness down. So I would just touch the ISO then at that point. So that's kind of how that works. At least that's how I explain stuff to folks when they're trying to do various different things, because it makes what you look at easier. It makes it more digestible. You know what I'm saying? So, all right, let's go to the comments real quick. My bad. Rocket Rolls Vlog saying, hey everybody, what is up, brother? Good to see you. Glad that you are here. T. Davis saying, I prefer my setting my lights to 4,000 to 4,200 when recording. It makes my melanin pop. See, that's what we're saying. Like most people think it's the cameras. I've heard people get rid of whole cameras because they be like, oh man, the skin tones is bad. It's like, what was your white balance? What was your lighting setup? Your skin, like this looks all the great, right? This looks amazing. Turn all my lock symbols off. This looks great. Okay, with the magic of Ecamm, I can adjust the white balance and start to look cooler and cooler and cooler. Now all of a sudden you're like, oh man, Sony skin tones look terrible for black people. I've heard that too. Like, do it look terrible? Or is your white balance bad? Because even if I do half of that, bring it back up to half of what I had, it still looks better. The background still kind of looks a little bluish. It doesn't have that goldish hue like I kind of like. If I put it all the way back to what I have, now you can see it's like a much warmer look. Preference, but it's also a white balance. So yeah, it's like the kelvins, like this number here. You'll see this even on your light bulbs. Go to the hardware store and go get you a new pack of light bulbs. that are going to match what your lights are in the room. That's what this ceiling light does. It just matches a little bit better, so I don't have to be in a dark room. That's just my preference. I don't want to record in the dark. I've tried that look before. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just, like I said, it's preference. I just don't want to sit in the dark. He said, I love the aesthetic of the colorful lights in the background. Why, thank you. It's like it's a mix between, like whatever. Let's see if this one works. But it's like different times. Like I played around with different stuff. Is that still? Yeah. So you'll see it change ever so slightly. I don't know if I have batteries in this one. There she goes. All right, so yeah, it's like it's an RGB bulb from IKEA, but that's why I said I changed that shutter speed just because it's different. So I like to use simple stuff. I don't feel like I need a bajillion lights, but what I do use is just like I want it to match for me, what I like. So if the old girl will participate, we might be stuck on pink or purple today. Allegedly. Are you going to change today? There she goes. All right. Still a little orange, but that's fine. Maybe one more to get back to where it was. There she goes. Yeah, that's just an IKEA light. Nothing special. Just an IKEA light. I'm like, I think I want a colored light back there. And then the other one is just a regular LED panel. Pull the veil behind, pull the curtain from behind the, what is that, the Wizard of Oz. It's just a gel film. Same ones you get at the craft store. It's a little gel film. I already had the light, but it wasn't an RGB light. But gels work. It's also used in, you'll see it sometimes behind the scenes on music scenes, stuff like that. You know what I mean? All right. 1 second. Let me go adjust something. I'm gonna put y'all on the pre-screen. Stay where you are. I'll be right back. You won't have to wait the whole time, okay? My bad. As you can see, the core values from another video, because the camera hit the keyboard. It fell off the other one. But I got some other lenses, so we don't need this screen. Let's go back here. So I got some other lenses, and then I got the pop filter. All right, just so you can see a little bit better what I'm talking about. And put it on this one. So I got the Viltrox 20mm f2.8, and then trusty dusty kit lens. And then I also pulled out my, what do you call it? It's about thinking pop filter. It's not. Grey card, my word. All right, so let's take this lens off. Let's put on the kit lens for good measure, eh? All right, there it goes. Perfection. All right. Real quick, gray cards. Life-saving investment for $7. Literally had this since 2017. It's the best $7 you will ever spend. Literally this. Hold it up to your camera. Hold it up to your camera. Like this. Like wherever you're going to sit. Literally do this. Take the photo. It'll adjust for wherever the lighting is. There's also a great app that, like, let's say you don't know what the lighting is. I get it. I didn't either. It's called the Sidus Link app. Yeah, SIDUS Link app, Sidus Link app. This is a fantastic app. I found this through watching some YouTube videos. There's a setting called, it's like a lighting control setting on here or whatever. But what you can do is figure out what the kelvins are in the room or what those lights are set at. And it's freaking amazing. I'm gonna pull this up for y'all in a second. Let's get to some questions, comments. Melanie saying, I can't wait to get the 50mm f1.8 for portraits. It is a good lens. There's nothing wrong with that one. I have no complaints with that. F1.8 is, that's what this lens is. Amazing. Amazing quality. The other thing though too, minimum focusing difference. You mentioned specifically it's for portraits. So for that, no big deal. But if you're gonna record though, whether it's APS-C or full frame or whatever, like let's switch over to this and hissin. So again, I just put the kit lens on, like I said, but you'll see 50mm is super close. Let's go back a little bit because now we're into clear image zoom. If I can get it to right there. Oh, overshot. So 50mm is super duper close. If I turn this around on my face, we'd be in nose hair territory. We don't need to be that close out here in these real and digital streets. So 50mm is super close for photos. It just depends on what you're trying to do. If you're on APS-C, that is. On 50mm on full frame, you have about what you see now. I am maybe two and a half and some about 2.5 feet from the edge of the lens. So with any lens that you're looking at, look at the number, those numbers on the front. I did a video about this a long time ago, but if you look at those numbers on the front, that is your it'll tell you what the minimum focusing distance is for. So basically you have a face, call this the face. You have a face, and then you have how close can you get before the lens can't focus anymore. Even if you put it in manual focus or whatever, sometimes you can get a little bit more reach, but not that often. All right. So let's switch since we got the Doc Pops in the building today and get to the next question. I'm taking. Now we got the signature Doc Rock purple. That one pop. That one. Dang, this looks kind of good. I'm looking at it in the computer screen. That purple. Okay. I get it. It's like a play on words. Pop filter. Doc Pops. Like it. The color pops too. But that actually looks really good. I didn't think that would look that good on camera. It looks good in person. They actually do. It looks like what it looks like on camera, but it looks really good. Yeah, that's all right, Doc. Good for you, brother. Shout out to my brother, Doc to the Riz out, Doc Pops. That's what I'm switching on right now. Different colors, different microphones. These will fit an array of different ones, so just check the description on there for this one. But these actually look really good. I'm feeling the blue right now though, but we're gonna switch to that Doc Rock signature purple. Kevin Cox in the building saying, what's up all? Hello, Kevin, good to see you, glad you're here. David Hunt in the building saying hello everyone, good to see you, David. Saying greetings and salutations, good to see you. Good to see you. Said, what interface do you use for your XLR microphone? So I use the Vocaster 2. I switched from the, and you'll see me adjusting the mic stand, but this is the Elgato LP, like that lower profile one. But I use the Vocaster 2, and that is what I switched from the Rode Procat. What was the freaking thing called? Rodecaster. The Procaster, I think it's something like their microphone, but it's the Rodecaster Pro 2. I used the first one, the second one. I was even thinking about getting their smaller joint. Not a fan. Not a fan. But this is what I use. It's this one right here. And so this is so awesome. Takes up no space. It sits on my Mac Mini, which that was the biggest thing for me. Not only did I want it to sound good, look good, hashtag all the things, but I wanted it to, I never have anybody in the office. If I am traveling, which I'm doing less of this summer, then that's one thing. You know, if you have a need for it, doing small conferences, whatever. I don't need that 24/7 though, because I'm not using the buttons. I'm not hitting the effects like we used to. At best, I was abusing that, what do you call it? The Metal Gear Solid. Like, huh? What was that noise? Or I did like using that one, but I mean, you know, I could do that at Ecamm too. So yeah, I use the Vocaster too though. And it has settings that you can adjust for it. Like I messed around with the compression a little bit today, just because last week people were saying it was a little low. So I adjusted it, but yeah, that's what I use. Migs, brother Migs in the building. How is your beautiful wife? Tell her I said hello on this fine Friday, saying it's been a while. Indeed, my brother, it has. Saying this is a straight up gold mine for getting camera settings down, and love how base level you are explaining this. Is what I would have given to have had the base level understanding of some of this stuff, because sometimes it just is annoying to see. Like, I could say, I'll just do this setting here, adjust this here, do this here, whatever. On a video, takes 7 minutes, maybe that. And then you get your camera, you get the lens, you get the lights, you get copy, paste everything, whatever I'm buying, using, same stuff, including the dock pops. And your stuff don't look like that. You get your video back and you looking at it and it looks too dark. The white balance is off and you got a greenish hue to it. And you be like, that Diana lied to me. Those settings don't work. I ain't adjust none of the other stuff except the brightness, the temperature, and then the tint in Ecamm. But you know, it's like, other than that, I can bring the brightness back, bring that temperature so it's not so bluish like your Kelvins and stuff would be. Get rid of that greenish hue, just bring it to normal. Bob's your uncle. Depending on the skin tones, I will say this because nobody talks about this. If you are dark skin, very dark skin, if you are brown skin like me, if you are light skin, lighter than me, like let's say maybe the shade of my hand, or if you are of a different race and you're like Caucasian, white balance is such a huge deal. It will make you look sick, like you have a rash. It'll make you look like you have the flu. It'll make you look terrible. You know what I'm saying? So that, like just getting your ISO, not even your ISO, but it's the only thing that you probably would touch. But if you get that right, and then you start getting your overall exposure triangle right, but big, if I can sell this to you, if you can get your white balance right, it'll make your stuff look so much better. And that's why you see all my stuff is locked. It's not changing no matter what I'm doing, no matter what I hold up to the camera, none of that. It's all locked in. That's the difference between like using auto settings and then manual settings. So this is getting into like using manual stuff. I just don't want you to be afraid or like shy away from that kind of stuff. So has everyone remembered to hit that like button? That's what I'm talking about, brother. Let them know. If you're enjoying the stream, you're getting some value out of it. If you got questions, even if it's not on this, I was only thinking like this would be like maybe 5 minutes of like the first part of the stream, and then that would be it. But if you got questions around other stuff, hit that Q colon in the chat. I am still going down the line. I can see I'm halfway through the chat, but I'm gonna get there. All right, I'm gonna get there. We're not doing a 5-hour energy live stream. So get that together now. We're not doing that. Instagram, I know y'all gotta go. You get that 1 hour cap. So come on over to YouTube at Diana Gladney. Yeah, we got to continue without Instagram, without the Ingram. All right. Melanie saying always, and ISO 2000 is wild, except that's the difference. My settings are a little different now because I'm breaking the rules. My shutter speed shouldn't ever even touch something like this. Not indoors. 119.9 is odd. Except when you're using some of the new features that your cameras come with, then you will have to adjust stuff. It's different if I'm using ZVE1 versus the ZVE10 Mark 1, or like I'm telling you right now, I'm stuck on using this anti-flicker setting in the camera. It makes even the photos. That's what people, I don't understand people talking about having banding in video with these cameras. I've taken beautiful photos, in my opinion, beautiful photos that I've given back to clients, and they love it. And the biggest thing is like when you take pictures of strangers and they love it. Like at a conference, at an event, at a mastermind, you take photos of them and they love it. That is like the biggest selling point to me. The client is important, but when you have the attendees and people that you're like working with or whatever, even for your own stuff, when they love what they're getting back, it's just like they love how you made them look. That's a huge difference. So it'd be bad when you get all the other settings look right and then you got banding and stuff in the video, or those looks like black lines or whatever. Ain't nobody got time for that. So I'll show you what that looks like on this ZVE10. Thought I could pull that cable up. So let's go. I'm not going to switch it yet. I'm going to put this in preview mode because I want to see how I can get this as close to right before I bring this over to y'all. It's kind of hard to show on this camera because my shoulder. Yeah, I'm just looking at it. Y'all can't see it yet, but. And it's hard to hold this too. But yeah, it's not going to show so well there, but you could see it if you got in closer. But I'm just looking for the banding. That's what I'm checking for. Yeah, it's too hard to see, or it's not noticeable enough if I switch to this other camera angle. That's what I was testing. But let's go back to live mode. Cool. So, but yeah, it's like you'll see those black rolling bars. And usually, like I said, that, which is what I was testing, that light is not a video light. It's a light from IKEA. Cost me like 20 bucks or something. I've had it for years because it looked cute. It was cheap. It's out of sight. It's behind a bookcase. I'm not spending $500 on a hidden light. Personally, not in this space. Not for that. Not for a bookshelf. You know what I'm saying? So I just wanted it to, it's just an aesthetic light. Be different if it was going to be on me like these lights are. It's just an aesthetic light. But it has banding, which is sometimes what you run into for your house lights, your lamps, your whatever the cases are for what you're doing. So I want to get rid of that. So the reason why my ISO is at 2000 is because, as you all know, as I showed you earlier, the higher that shutter speed becomes for your regular camera. I'll switch over back to the ZVE10 just so y'all can see that. All right. So this is at 1/50th of the shutter speed. Looks like a fraction on this camera, right? So this is, like I said, if we want everything in focus, we don't want anything hidden, then let's say we want to be at f6.3 for some odd reason, right? ISO is also at 2500 over here, just to look semi-normal looking at the computer screen. But if I'm using see the shutter, if I'm bringing that number up, that image is going to steadily become darker and darker and darker. It's just going to keep getting dark. Now, this is great if you want to freeze motion and you're taking photos, but we're not taking photos. We're just doing video. But that's great for anti-flicker. So we more in this region. We somewhere in this region. This camera don't have anti-flicker settings. So we over here, and I'm like, okay, well, I would really like to not maybe look so dark. I'm going to have to bump my ISO. Either I need to bump my ISO or I need to bump my aperture. It's going to be one or the other. So if I'm going to adjust the aperture, then I could bring that down some, but then now you're getting a blurry background, and that's against what you want in that instance. So that's like how that's why we picked those settings on that one. But for this one, from what I used to use, if you saw probably one of my original streams going into this kind of stuff, my settings look more normal. I think my ISO was maybe at 200 with the shutter speed being at 1/50th of a second. For the shutter speed, my ISO was like 180-ish, 200, something like that. So yeah, saying ISO 2000 is wild and impressive. The other thing, if you get in these new cameras too, 2000 is where the other base ISO is at for the picture profile that I like to use. and the way I like to set my stuff up. I do a mix of stuff that like you probably don't see on YouTube, just because it's what I like, what I want to use. And so trying to see how to explain this, every picture profile that you'll see on these newer cameras, depending on what the sensor is, has a different base ISO, which means where does the image get clean? I could literally take this from ISO 2000 and start bringing it down, and you will start to see noise that wasn't there before. So it's like that dual base ISO. That's why that comes in handy as well, which is also why that f2.8 came into factor. Because I'm like, let's not only use the anti-flicker settings. This is what I wanted, just to give you insight into like, what if you need to break the rules? What if we need to go against the double your frame rate rule? What if we know it needs to go against what usually would seem right? I want to use the anti-flicker setting. I don't want to be overexposed, like uber bright. And I want to use the dual base ISO setting based on the picture profile that we're using. So now I have 3 ones. Well, that means I need to go to ISO 2000. So if my shutter speed is locked because of the anti-flicker setting, and my, let's bring the locks back out. This is how this works. This is the easiest way to think about this. If now, instead of my shutter speed being locked, I'm going to put the lock next to the ISO because I want to use that dual base ISO. So I don't want to change that. I want to get it as close to whether it's that lower number or that higher number. I want to get it as close to what the camera needs to be clean. The lens is super clean anyway, but it's just that little bit of extra oomph. We pay all this money for these cameras to make them an investment. Let's actually yield the return on the investment of our time, which is efficiency. So now shutter speed is locked, ISO is locked. What do I have available? I have my aperture now. So that became an f2.8. So that's how I got to my settings based on what I wanted for this space, using the anti-flicker and then introducing the dual base ISO. So if you get these newer cameras, you can break the rules. Your numbers just will look different than probably what you'll usually see on YouTube if somebody's having a camera doing a tutorial around that don't have it. That's how that works. So I never knew you could lock certain camera settings. And so if you're not in auto, everything is available to be customized. That's the thing with like manual exposure. You will manually adjust all of these numbers to put it at what you want. Then it stays until you change it. So I can turn the camera off. I can turn the camera on. There's a video I did on for Sony cameras specifically on memory recall. Amazing. You see this, where is it at on this camera? I don't think it's visible on this screen, but it is on this other camera. If you look in this very top left area where it says, like, you see the camera icon and then you see that MR1, that is memory recall setting number 1. So let's say these settings that I came up with on camera for this other one is what I wanted. It's exactly what I wanted. Again, set it and forget it lifestyle. I'm gonna figure it out once. I'm not changing it again. Set it and save it to the memory recall setting. So when you go into your camera, I can go and pick the shoot mode, and then I can change and see if I want to use memory recall number 1 or something else. And so now it's in memory recall number 1. Settings changed because it went back to what it usually is set to, which knocked all the icons off the screen. So that's why you see that. But yeah, it's like, it's whatever you want it to be. You can always adjust based on that. All right, let's see where we are. Saying, is the audio low? No. Check the volume, my guy. Also, even if your TV is set well, make sure the volume level on YouTube, because sometimes if you adjust that, it's like it's auto syncs across devices a little bit. So check the volume level on the YouTube video itself. That has gotten me more times than I care to admit. Blessed white chocolate day to everyone. JFK Productions, good to see you. Glad that you are here. What is up, Luis? My name is Luis Vega. I'm here today. What's up, Luis? Good to see you. Glad that you are here. Saying hi, everyone. Saying my gray card is one of the first purchases I made when I started this camera journey years ago, thanks to Think Media. 100% shout out to Sean Cannell. He had, I think he had the same one or something like that. Boy, the amount of affiliate income brother probably racked up so on like simple stuff because I think that was back when people were still using ring lights for stuff, and I remember he had them. And I'm like, I wear glasses. I can be doing a ring light. You got a ring on. I'm like, that's too much distracting stuff. I'm like, give me a regular old softbox. But yeah, shout out to Sean Cannell. But yeah, gray card, man, saves your life. You can use the gray side. You can use the white side. Technically, it's for exposure. On this side, I use the gray side. It's like, who cares? The biggest like place that you want to take these with, like I've traveled with this. I'm surprised it's lasted since 2017. I've had it that long. Same one. Like, do a conference, an event, a church, and like be recording your own stuff. Is the ultimate time that you want to bring your gray card. I never forget it. Saying, is a 100 the perfect ISO number? No, there's no such thing. The difference is, reason why you will hear that, the difference is usually on most cameras, and you also have to take into account this when you're watching YouTube videos. Nothing against any creators, fellow creators out there. Most older cameras, you wanted to stay in that lower ISO range so that you had a cleaner image on the sensor. Like you didn't want any noise. You didn't want to see what I call sprinkles in the shot. So in my black shirt, you didn't want to be seeing sprinkles all over the place and stuff like that. So people would do and go down to ISO 100, 200, maybe 400 at the most. But again, here's another fun fact. Your ISO is also going to be, it's going to change based on the sensor size. Sensor size being this little chip looking thing that you see, excuse me, is this. That's the sensor, right? So this one is APS-C. The one in this camera is a full frame. ISO 100 at this camera will not look the exact same as ISO 100 on this camera. There's also something to be said about the quality that's possible. Closer to like more base standard entry-level settings on this camera versus this one. You can customize them to all hell, go into S-Log2, S-Log3 if you know how to use all that stuff. Most people are going to use like standard picture profiles or whatever. You're not going to get like what you'll see like uber dynamic range, and dynamic range never made any sense to me. The easiest understanding, I'm saying when I first got started, dynamic range, I'm like, what the hell even is that? People just throw phrases out there. I'm like, and how does that matter to my video that I'm doing in this room? Like, you know what I'm saying? So dynamic range is simply to say this. These parts back here, these brighter parts of the image are the highest parts in the image, or the brightest ones. The dark shirt, my hair, the chair, even like the tripod bag, all that stuff are the darkest parts of the image. It's basically to say you want to be able, let's go here. Let's do this. We don't need to be on me. That's too close. But you want to be able to look over here to the darkest parts of the image. Let's go down a bit. You want to be able to look at the darkest parts of the image and not see it look like sprinkles are all over them, which is like noise, digital noise. You also want to be able to go to the brighter parts of the image. Even like if I was overexposed, these hot spots you would usually on my forehead or whatever, you would want to see no sprinkles there either, or it just not look like an infinity white where you can see no details. So that's the difference, where you would want people to say like, oh, ISO 100, 200. So that's where that's coming from. You don't have to copy and paste those settings. Again, your settings are going to be based on your environment. It don't have to be hard. I went through like, if you were here earlier, because I know people watch before they comment, I'm all good with that. But if you were here earlier, then it's like I went through like how all that goes into it. But if you got specific questions, just feel free to ask. Question, is the Tokina 11 and 16 millimeters solely manual focus? Been looking at that. Or the Sony 11 f1.8. So fun fact, I've been eyeing that Tokina lens as well. It is not. It's actually, if the one that you're referencing is the specific one, let me look this up real quick. If that is specifically the, what do you say, 11 to 16, I think that's the one that I'm thinking that's the same lens. And oh, you talking about this older one. So I'll show you what I'm thinking about. All right, so let us switch over here. So this lens, I promise you don't want this lens. I don't care what brand or like a Canon, Nikon, Sony. I promise you don't want this lens. Here's the deal with these older lenses that seem like it would be great based on the specs. It's like, oh man, 11 to 16 is uber wide, f2.8 for like APS-C. Seems like it would be amazing, right? Wrong. You will hear, and I'm telling you from experience, I've tried a lot of stuff. I don't do videos on everything because I don't feel like it's important to bash stuff if I don't like it or think that it would be good for the community. But what you'll notice with this lens, let's just go to the Canon one, for example. You're gonna hear what I like to call chipmunks in this lens from the motors, the focusing motors. It's just an older lens, even though it's like, oh, it's the Pro, whatever. None of that stuff matters when you put it on these modern cameras. Even if you put it on an older camera, it's just gonna have a harder time figuring it out. So what you find out is that it sounds like as the motors are trying to focus. Whether I hold, like you saw, I just held up the camera and all that, you don't hear any noise. It's not because of the noise reduction or any of that software or anything. The lens is not actually struggling. The motors don't have that, what do you call them? Stepper motor. Stepper motor is not something you even have to discuss anymore because all lenses have them. The older lenses, though, don't. And so that stepper motor is the difference between it being quiet or the focusing motors being loud. And so if a lens does not have a stepper motor, it is going to be loud. And you hear that or that, it sounds like it's grinding up against rocks or whatever, but it's more like a chipmunk kind of a sound. The lens that I was thinking you were talking about was this newer one that they came out, which was a newer version of this, which if you did want to get, I haven't tried this one before because when they were sending them out, I did not get one. So this is one that came out. They have it in the white version as well. Only problem with this was that I saw was the autofocusing. It feels like confidence in this lens, the autofocusing confidence. It may acquire it. The camera is going to see like the box, see the box over my eye. That's the camera, not the lens. The lens is what sometimes if you see pulsing, even if you are within that minimum focusing distance, like I said, how close do you need to be or far away do you need to be to the lens before it can actually focus on you properly? You get too close to any lens, it's not going to be able to see you properly, right? So with this one, everything being done properly, it seemed like this one still had issues. But the difference with this lens that I saw is that it has a potential, like they could update it. I just don't know if they have. This is one that I've been wanting to try because it's like one of those ones that it'll come out, it doesn't get a lot of fanfare, it gets forgotten about over time. And so you circle back around to it just to see, because sometimes it'll be firmware updates, but those are not the videos that you see, that you only saw whatever when it first came out. And so those are the only videos that you have. So that's one that I want to try and that I want to check out. So if you're looking to try one of those Tokina lenses, that's what I would suggest taking a look at before you touch the older one that has the chipmunk motors, or I like to call it. Saying, yeah, that purple is fire. I don't even like purple. That's what I'm saying. Like, purple is not my thing. It's Doc's color, but it looks so much better on camera than I thought. I got one more while I'm playing around with these since we're talking about it for the Doc Pops. Shout out to my brother from another mother. So this one, I was concerned with this one and the red one because red I could do. But the orange one, I wouldn't mind this because I do stuff with Ecamm at times. And so like being able to be branded with the company, I like that bit. So I'm cool with this one. But it feels potentially like without the right other Ecamm aesthetics and such, it's like, I don't think, you know what I'm saying? Like the blue is more my jam and that purple will look great as hell. So I'm gonna put the purple back on just because, you know what I'm saying? It looks. Out here undressing my microphone in public. My gosh. Saying Doc Pops purple pops in your studio. Does it really though? Man, I can't be flexing the Doc Pop purple. I like the blue. The blue is more my jam. Like the blue looks fire. Like they all look good. Don't get me wrong. And again, I'm not gonna lie. I always stay with the black matte, whatever. Even the ZVE1 being an all white camera was a stretch for me. Cause I'm like, but then I got it and I was like, I really liked it. But I'm like, oh man, you know, I just stick with the black. They're trying to get me on these a long time ago. A different company, not Doc's versions. Doc's colors look way better too. So I'm like, when I saw it, I'm like, so mine looks real faded and old then. All right then. Shout out to the faded original that did what it needed to do for a while, you know? Saying, listen, Miss Diana, let the 5-hour stream happen. You know you want to know. No. We're not doing... It's only because we got too long in the stream, and that's why we stream for 5 hours. We're not doing no 5-hour energy. We really, really aren't doing one today. I promise you. Promise you. I'm saying, question, as it relates to lights, is getting rid of glare as simple as moving lights as far away as possible aside from the screens? No, it would be a mix of a couple things. I'm looking for my other pair of glasses. Pause for the cause. Let's go get these other pair of glasses and I will show you. I got me stretching all over the office today. So these are my other pair of glasses that are needing a lens wipe down. These do not have the anti-flicker coating. So these are what I use when I'm just working. These do not have the anti-flicker coat, but they're not also unbearably terrible. But it's not great. So let's switch over to the Amazon page. And you'll see just how a reflection, now you see like it's way more distracting. Ignore the autofocusing mechanics there. So it's like way more distracting. You can almost see like an exact mirror image or what have you. So even from the lights, if I go back to Doc's website, there's like a dark color, or even just pull up a gray matted one for just like the regular tab, you're still going to see some stuff, but it's not going to be as pronounced. You can tilt your glasses a little bit more. Like it feels like you're doing like the old librarian type vibe. And plus these are bigger, so you got more real estate that you're trying to hide. I also have another monitor over here. So like you can darken the screens, you can do other stuff, but now you're starting to get more comfortable and you're also making it more difficult for you to see. What I would do instead, I will move my camera to like here. And so now you wouldn't see it as much. Couple things. I also use dark mode. When I switch from, there's a focus setting, and you can do this with whatever camera. I just have iPhone, but any cameras are now, not cameras, any phones can do this now. You switch to, what do you call them? Your focus mode. So when I'm just working, it's in do not disturb. Otherwise, you can turn it off. My phone stays in a perpetual do not disturb. But you could do I set a mode called filming. When I'm doing my filming mode, which is what I'm in right now, everything now changes to dark mode. That's a setting that when I switch over, it goes into it. Phone calls and text messages aren't allowed from anybody. Certain notifications and stuff get turned off. Like everything switches to like, don't bother me. I need to focus on doing what I'm needing to do, even from certain apps. So it's like switch all of that stuff as much as possible, dark mode. The other thing is, it's not moving the lights as far away. My lights are also up and tilted at 45 degrees. This other light on the side here, like I showed y'all before. Let's go to my app, which I could just tell Alexa, but I don't feel like arguing with her today. So if I turn off my side light and my front light, you now see, you still see this is a better way to see like the reflections that you see. So it's not about moving them far away. Even if I just turn on the side light, you're still gonna get lighting or whatever, or reflections, but reflections are just not one way. You know what I'm saying? So now turn on the front light. My lighting is not what's producing the reflections at this point. So as long as you have them up, angled off about a 45 degree, and then just like slightly tilted, diffusion though is a a big win, really good diffusion, right? There's a misconception with the Elgato key lights that a lot of people like to use. Those are frosted. They're not diffused. They're frosted panels. Frosting, like on a cupcake, frosting is not diffusion. It's not diffusing. It's just a frosted image, right? Like it's been maybe sprayed with a can of snow or something. That's not diffusion. It will soften the light, but that's not enough. You need to add like a softbox. I'll show you exactly what I use, because this definitely helps. And then too, my last tip is going to blow your mind. Pop-up softboxes. No, this is what I need. Is Diffuse is the company, F-U-S-E. Right then, so this is what we need to go over to. Blimey, mate. So this is what I use. They have definitely gone up in price. These used to be like $30. Finally, like Newer by Amazon or whatever makes some of these. But yeah, this is it's a pop-up softbox. It's kind of like you'll see here. You can get the square ones. I use the trapezoid styles. You get the different sizes or whatever. But basically, you just need to diffuse the light. I got the pop-up ones just because they collapse down like my gray card that I showed y'all. They just twist and take up no space. It fits in like the little laptop sleeve area when I'm traveling if I need to take diffusion with me. Okay, here's what I got right here. Are these the trapezoids? Don't look like it. Blimey, mate. Nope, these aren't it. But it still condenses down small like that though. You get the square ones. I just have, like I said, the trapezoid or the circular ones like this here. But yeah, diffusion is your friend. Lighting is like, it's a big win for like fixing your videos and stuff. But this is what I use, pop-up softbox lights. So that way it's not taking up a bunch of space and all of that. And they work for a myriad of lights if you're using like LED panels and stuff like that. That's why I got these. You can get more traditional, just softbox lights. So, or just not necessarily these, but just a softbox panel for whatever kind of lights you already have. Softbox panel or dome, just do that. You also have all kinds of other stuff, but usually something around this ballpark or this shape will soften the lights if you're using that Cobb sensor or chip on board. You'll see that COB, like you'll see in this one down here. So that's kind of how that works. But diffusion is your friend. And then last tip, if you're dealing with something like that, get different glasses that are for filming. That is specifically what these were. It's $30. $30. The company I used at the time was Zenni. Zenni. Don't know if I still have the code for them or if it still works. But usually with most of these companies online, for those glasses companies, what you can do is either get your first pair free or your first pair like 50% off or like 20 or $30 or something like that. It's a bunch of them. It doesn't matter which one you use. That's just the one I was using for a long time. But these glasses that I got, they forgot to add the anti-reflective coating. I cannot record with these easily. So spend $30, got a pair of glasses that has the anti-reflective coating, especially if you wear glasses. If your talent is wearing glasses, you're filming somebody like, let's say at a church, nonprofit, cookout, whatever, recording family stuff, then at that point, angle it off to the side to reduce the lights as much as possible, slightly tilt down. And then that's pretty much it. Saying 5 hours said what? That's it. You can use anything else with the Vocaster 2 with your audio. Also the Sony ZV-10. How do you take pics? It's always doing video because you'll be in photo or video mode. Let's pop this lens back on here. Forgot. Let's see here. I don't think it's going to show you if I plug it back in, but what you want to do though is, let's answer your first question. Do I do anything with my Vocaster settings? I can show you what I do. I don't do a lot with my audio. Very rarely touch it at all. Let's go screen share. Alrighty. And then, or let me see. I'm gonna show you, show you in real time. How about that? I'll show you exactly what I use so you can see it. All right, so this is just on top of the Doc Pops, since I'm promoting my brother. This is the Vocaster tab. When you get the device, it can be the Vocaster 1 or the 2. It's just how many XLR ports it is. It's the same model though. This is exactly what my audio settings are. The cool thing that I like, it has that auto gain feature, so I could talk as normally as I usually would talk. And then what happens is it'll adjust it for me. I've tried it. It does work. But some days you feel like being quieter and some days you feel like being more animated or whatever. So I'll slightly adjust it, but this is usually where it's at. And then as far as the enhance or what have you, I have it selected for the radio. And then up here is some other settings. So this is radio. And then this is what it sounds if you use the clean. Let me pause the music real quick so you can hear a little bit better. And so this is what it sounds like from there. Warm sounds a little bit different. I didn't care for any of these. What I'll usually do is just do a recording for the audio so I can hear what it sounds like. Then it says bright. This is what my audio would sound like in this way. So I preferred for the radio quality sound based on just me listening to how I actually sound. Then up here, click on these, looks like levels. Then this is where you can kind of start to get into more specific stuff. This is what I have it set in. These numbers up here, these +6s or negative minuses, is just how high or how low it can go. It's not the actual number. That is something I would love to see different. So I can't see if I'm at a +2 or 3 or whatever. It's just somewhere in this ballpark. The compression, if I adjust this in real time, if I bring this down, it tends to sound, I don't know, a little more muffled in my opinion. And if I take it all the way up, it's really, really odd. So about here is where I found that I kind of like it to be. And then I adjust these based on just solely listening to how I sound as I'm actively speaking. And this is all in real time. So but I will record it so I can listen back to it. This software comes with your device, so you don't have to do anything. Just plug it. It's like really plug and play. But this is it. Or you can just hit the auto enhance type stuff, and then it'll kind of figure out some stuff for you. But no matter what you pick here, you can reset it, hit that button, and it'll put everything back to default. And then this is a little bit like getting into like noise reduction. And then the reason why this one is the Vocaster 2, it has that second XLR port. And so you can do the same kind of stuff for a guest's voice or adjust it. I really wish you could save like presets per person's voice, but that may be doing a bit much there. But that's all that I do with my audio settings. I don't change anything else. This stays the same way. I only adjusted the levels recently just so that the audio levels are there. And then when I come into Ecamm, and you don't have to have that box open for you to get your audio levels and stuff right. That software is closed all the time, but all the stuff still works. Don't know how they have it set up. It's just the way they got it set up though, but it works. Then for Ecamm, since that's what I use, I can show y'all that. This is everything that I see on my end. So I have my sound levels for the music, just a little screen there if I'm going back and forth between whatever. I put it from 67 to 72. Since, like I said, last week, people said the audio was a little low. So I made those changes. So I just put it from 67 to 72 so my audio levels are consistent. You do not, should not, and or ever be at 100% audio levels anywhere. It's technical term, gain staging, but be solid on the main device, be solid in the software. Easiest way to put it, right? So that's how that works. Let me know if you have further questions regarding that. Oh, you had another question. Also, the ZV-10, how do you take pics? It's always doing photos or always doing video. You have to put it in photo mode. You don't see it on these icons, but it's easier just to show you here. And I'm going to zoom in uncomfortably close so you can see exactly what I'm talking about when I hold the camera up so I don't have to stretch my arms out like super fast or super long. See that here? that photo, video, or the S and Q that you'll see on your camera, that right there is what you need to press. So you press it once, it's in video, you press it again, it's in S and Q, you press it again, then it goes to video mode. So that's what you need to change. If you always, when you press the shutter button and it records video, it's probably because you set the settings. If you went off of my video, you have it so that that's a quick button that you can just press and it starts recording. That's fine. What most people don't know, because I don't cover photos on the channel, you can still have a completely different setup for all your buttons and all that stuff. So when you do switch to photo mode, you have totally different settings, like what you usually like to do, like say street photography, or just photos of your kids or something like that. And they moving fast because toddlers are freaking flash type fast. Maybe you need to have a high fast shutter speed, but for video you don't. So when you switch to photos, just save that memory recall for photos. So fun fact there. And then you don't have to have this set to video recording. Leave this set to photos. So when you hit that shutter button, it doesn't start recording. It just takes the photo. You can always still hit that red button to start recording. That's how that works for there. I just never go into photo stuff on the channel because I take photos, but it's not my jam. You know what I'm saying? So that is why. What is up, Richard? Richard, I'm not gonna lie. You always remind me of Peter Lindgren. I don't know if it's the ball thing, but you always remind me of him. So you can also crank your lights up and lower the ISO and get the same exposure. Yes, you can, but sometimes if you're already pressing it for where your lights are, it's too much. Like if I brighten up my images too much, my hotspots here, and here are gonna get blown out. So I never try to sacrifice the lighting for the sake of the settings. The settings was always gonna be adjusted to the lighting. That's the way I teach it, at least. It's always multiple ways to do multiple things with video. It's super flexible. But once I set the lighting to what it actually needs to be, what I think it looks best for the skin tones, I'm not gonna play with the lighting for the sake of the settings. The settings is gonna get in alignment with what the environment needs and what looks best based on the lightings and stuff. So I saw there's 2 versions. Yeah, they got me very cautious. Yeah, definitely don't get the older, what's the name lens. Saying, yes, these are photography lenses. Photos don't record audio. Modern lenses are made for both. Yeah. So those other ones that don't have stepper motors, other lenses that don't have stepper motors, yeah, nobody cared until you had cameras like, what was it, the Canon, what's the camera, Luis? I know you know. Probably some of y'all other ones in the chat. It was the Canon models are escaping me. So Team Sony now. But gosh, what was it? It's one of their bigger DSLR cameras. Now I don't know why I'm still thinking of like the GH5 that's so Panasonic, but I can't think of the model. Whatever the model was, it started doing for videos, but it was Canon kind of kicked it off. Lumix or Panasonic was more so the ones that came in the mirrorless. But yeah, it's like once those came out, it was a wrap. But yeah, you can still use the older lenses, but they just aren't going to be great if you're doing it for videos. Saying essentially Tokina 11-16 is the first choice, Sony 11 second choice, and now what's taking first spot for me is the Sigma 10-18. I'll be honest with you, having tried everything but the Tokina lens, and like I said, having those reservations because of the autofocus being able to just lock on, it's a lens motors issue, not a camera issue with that one. The Sony has higher marks because, number one, it's a Sony with the Sony lens with a Sony body. Everything that they're offering for it to work, whether that is digital stabilization or whatever, works the best with them. So when you do use, I found this to be true, when you do use Sony lenses with Sony camera bodies, the digital stabilization performs the best. You only notice it in certain scenarios if you need it, but it is true. That I found to be true. Now, if you're looking at the Sigma has no flaws when it comes to the quality of that lens. Like, you know, like it doesn't have any flaws for it. I wish I had more coverage when I had that lens, but it's a fantastic lens, and it's a zoom, so you're not stuck at 11 trying to use clear image zoom or whatever. Clear image zoom is fantastic, but it is different. I did wind up just recently getting rid of the Sony 10 to 20 f4 PZ because there's an issue with those PZ lenses on full frame cameras like the ZVE1. Not gonna get into it right now, but I'm like, this is not as great as it was with that Sigma 10 to 18. If it were me, I would get the Sigma 10 to 18 hands down. I wouldn't worry, like the extra difference in price is like one of those things where you eat it up front. Personally, it's not because of like, oh, it's an exorbitant amount of income or whatever, and it's just like get whatever. No, in testing, in using, when you want to zoom in for that one, like let's compare this one Sigma 10 to 18 to the Sony 10 to 20 I was just talking about. If you have a camera like what, even if it's the ZV E10 Mark II, the A6700, or the Sony ZV-E1, what I find that sucks is look like when you zoom in, let's say I only want to be at 12 or 13 millimeters. This was the biggest issue I kept running into. There's like over time, more and more frustrating. I only need to be at 13 millimeters, vlogging, hand holding it, sitting it down, whatever. I'm like 13 zoomed in is about what I want to be. I cannot then turn on and like enable clear image zoom just using like the rocker. I can't do a 1.1, 1.2, or whatever I choose, clear image zoom and stay at that focal range. What happens on the PZ lenses, which I haven't heard anybody talk about, just something I found through experience, it zooms all the way in to the end of that lens and then clear image zoom kicks in. That sucks. So the easiest solution is the ones that are not PZ. At that point, like I said, you get the extra range, 10 to 18. It is dope. It is optically great. The Sigma is an optically great lens. It is fantastic. It's lightweight. The build quality feels good in the hand, and it's comfortable to hold and like travel with or whatever. That's the one thing I will say for that one. Not that the Tokina won't be. It's probably like lighter, I think it is. But yeah, so if it's between those two, like the 11 millimeter f1.8 is fantastic and is small and it has a recording button. I'm trying to like not convince myself. It is so fun. It's small and it's fun. Content creation needs to get back to being fun. That is like the big selling point with that. It is just small, it's fun, and it has a button on it so that when you're holding your camera like this, you can just hit the record button. You just do this all day long, just hit the record button. I'd fall asleep on the plane. I'm getting to my next destination. We land. I'm like, okay, great. I fell asleep with the camera in my hand. You just hit the record button. It's the most ridiculous and amazing thing, but the record buttons on the lens is like my new favorite thing. But yeah, but a vote between those three, I would get the Sigma. If you know 11 millimeters, you're not going to do a whole lot of clear image zoom. You're not going to want to zoom in or whatever. Then 11 is fine. Tokina it feels like a 40 or even 30% possibility. I don't have much confidence with that lens simply because unless they update it, I don't like we've spent too much money now where there's too much money going out the window for something not to work right, even though it's cheaper. $400 is not a sneeze amount of money for anybody. You know what I'm saying? Even if you have an exorbitant amount, $400 is still quite a bit of money. If I'm going to spend, I'd rather spend and invest a little bit more so that I'm getting the best at what I'm looking at. And so to me, that would be Sigma, because the Tokina, unless they did some massive updates for that firmware of the lens and how it's working with the stuff, if it didn't do great back then on those cameras, like A6600, ZV10, but like if it's not doing great there, it's not, you know what I'm saying? So I just don't have the fullest confidence with those because it just seemed to be On the original ZV10, at which ISO number does the image quality get affected? It depends on the environment. I wish I could give you like, it's like, oh man, you don't want to go past 700 ISO, because then at that point, the lighting matters. Because 700, let's put this in perspective, 700 in this room, 700 or even 100, let's say 100 to 200 ISO in this room versus on stage with stage lighting, and you have a bunch of stage lighting there, 100 to 200 there, it's not the same. And 100 to 200 outside, whether you're in the shade or, you know, it's a nice sunny day, it's not the same. So it's going to depend on your environment. It is also going to depend on your other settings. Like no one setting is so special that it's just like, just get this one thing right, except for the white balance. But when it comes to the exposure triangle, shutter speed, the aperture, and then the ISO, they work together. It literally is a triangle. Adjust any one of the three, something else is going to be impacted. That's how that works. Adjust any one of the three, something is going to be impacted. Because of that, it's like if you're trying to avoid, like I say, sprinkles in the shot, you have to take into account how much lighting in this space do I have? Is it dark outside? Am I in a dark room? Like, am I trying to film a movie screen? You making a bootleg? Okay, you're trying to make a bootleg. You filming the movie screen? Settings is going to differ, right? Because everything else is dark. You're just trying to focus on that. So it's really about looking at, what are my settings stuck at? Like, what am I trying to do? Because now I can drop the aperture and make it lower. I do want to keep my ISO ideally. If I can, most times I can. It's like I want to keep it under 1,000 for sure, like under 2,000 sometimes. But in the, like you see, it's at the ISO 2,000 right now. I'm on the ZVE1, but that don't matter. You know what I'm saying? Like 2,000 is ridiculous in this space, except I touched one of those other settings, being the point in the wrong area. I adjusted the shutter speed. So it's no one thing that can be adjusted on the exposure triangle. You can't move one without the others getting adjusted as well. So that is no specific one. You just don't want to be up into the stratosphere, because you start going into that 32,000 and all that stuff. Yeah, it's going to look terrible if you don't have the right lighting. So look at your lighting and your ISO. Look at your lighting and the aperture of your, like, lighting is going to play the hugest part of how much you have. Asterisk to that. Sometimes, so what? Sometimes, so what? Let's say right now in this video, in this stream, it would be some sprinkles in the shot. It's some noise. So what? You know what I'm saying? If you watch clips of The Walking Dead, one specific clip comes to mind. When in the first, and it doesn't matter if you saw it or not, a couple other movies. In the shot on The Walking Dead, first season-ish or whatever, when Rick had the walkie-talkie and him and Morgan, it was a black dude had the little boy with him or whatever. We met him when he first came out the hospital. He's standing and he's talking to him. Every morning, they supposed to touch base or whatever. He ain't been hearing him, but he's still sticking to the plan. He's on top of the bridge and he's like, Atlanta's a bust, whatever. It's bright outside. They're facing the highway or the street or the whatever. They're like on a bridge or building or something. Noisy as hell. It's noisy as hell. Nobody remembers that film or that part of the movie or the show or nothing because of how noisy it was. So sometimes when it comes to stuff like that, so what? It's like, well, what if people in the comments say something? So what? Did they pay for your setup? Are they hired to do your videos? So what? It is something to be said about, you know, getting advice and getting help or whatever. That's cool. I'm all for that. But at the same time, so what? Sometimes you just got to hit publish and fix it later. The biggest thing I will say, if you are running into challenges as you're creating, make a goal to improve on it. Not completely have it fixed, just improve on it by the next video, which means I'm going to publish this one and I'm moving on to the next one. Sometimes, so what? You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes it just, online culture tends to be a little bit more dramatic. Saying, hi Dana, it looks like your camera eye tracking square is showing on your face, your eyes and your face. Yeah, it switches depending on where you're at. And then depending on like with the lens or whatever, if it's having a hard time focusing on the eye, it switches to the face. So the way that works on your cameras, you'll never see this because you're always looking at the lens of the camera. You will never notice it. But as long as you're in focus, it's like, I don't care what the box is doing. Like I never see what the box is doing. I just know I can trust the autofocus. And it goes the way that the autofocus now works in cameras. Eye is first, if you have eye autofocus on. Can't see that, face. Can't see that, you'll see more of like a body type thing, like a square, like around on your person. Then at that point, that's where it's stuck at. But it uses a combination between contrast detection autofocus and phase detection autofocus to figure out what it needs to see. So it can't necessarily acquire the face, or the angle's not quite right, or the eye, then it goes to the face, then it goes to the body. So that's how you'll see it going between, it's like it's making those micro decisions all the time. But you'll never see that because you're looking into the lens of the camera. But you're seeing it today because, like I said, I literally thought I'd be doing this for like 5 or 10 minutes or something like that at the beginning. But that's how that works. So like this only matters now because I'm showing you everything. Otherwise it wouldn't matter because you never see it. It never loses focus in my video. So that's how that works. And different glasses would be way out of the option since mine are super, super specific for my myopia. But thanks for giving me a lot of ideas with the diffused lighting. So I have astigmatism in both eyes. So my lenses aren't thick, but these are still prescription lenses. It's not just like a pretty frame something with, you know, like, no, these are like prescription lenses. It's $30. A little different because I know you over across the pond, but a lot of these companies, like I said, look for it, see if they have like a first pair free option, or if they have it like where it's severely discounted for those options, but it's like usually 20 or $30. Even in your local currency, it'd be like 20, $30. So that way you have it for recording videos. And then when it's time to get your next set of glasses, make sure you tell your eye doctor that you need anti-reflective coating on the lens. It's something that they do during them producing your lenses or whatever. It's a coating. So tell them you need the anti-reflective coating on your lenses. And you'll easily be able to tell just simply like doing this. You shouldn't even see reflection when you're looking back. But yeah, see, if not this time, next time you get your glasses, tell them anti-reflective coating. So I use a 43-inch TV. There's like maybe anti-reflect, okay, in English, maybe anti-glare protective film that I could get for the screen. Go dark screen, adjust the resolution, excuse me, and tilt it. If you're using like something like that, here's the other thing. Think of that like a confidence monitor, or even if you're using that as the monitor, whatever, tilt it. Sometimes it may be using a dark mode for filming. That's why I said when I go into the focus settings on my phone, I go from like do not disturb to I'm filming, like it's in now. Everything switches to a dark mode. So you can do dark mode or adjust what you're seeing, you know what I'm saying? Or the brightness even. What are you looking at? Is it words? Is it just yourself? Like I said, it's a confidence monitor. You can decrease the brightness. The brightness on my other monitors maybe at like 60, 70% right now. I'm not using it, but it's here in case I need it. So you can do that. So I don't know if it would be with it, like, can you see it? Then at that point, that's the kind of stuff I'm thinking. Function first. Let it function and do what you need to do, and then go from there. So there's no, that I know of, anti-reflective coating that you're going to put on there, but you probably need to tilt it, reduce the brightness so it's not at 100%. And that could be like 70 or 80 or 85%. But make sure you can actually see whatever it is you're trying to see for the reason that you have it, and make it makes sense to the use case. Maybe it don't need to be here. It could be here. You know what I'm saying? I'm down like this and it's flat. So you can still see it, but you know what I'm saying? Like, and then two, what are you doing with it? That's another question. What is up, K-Walk Comedy? Good to see you. Glad that you are here. And what's a Canon? Oh, whatever. Yes, 5D Mark II. Thank you so much. Magic Lantern 5D Mark II. Well, 5D Mark, I'm saying like officially in the camera. Magic Lantern was saving lives out here in these real and digital streets for a long time. But Magic Lantern, yes, everyone and their mother was using Magic Lantern. Still, some of them older cameras now. It's crazy what you can do with it. But 5D Mark II, yes. But the 5D Mark III really changed the game for a lot of people for that one. So that's so. See, Luis, I knew you'd know. See, my issue is that the Sony 11mm is a prime lens, and those non-zoom lenses are, yeah, I don't see how that's a problem though. Prime lens being it's a one focal length, zoom lens, multiple focal ranges. What's the problem? So you gotta let me know, because we get into the end of the stream, we get into the end of the chat, which means it's gonna be the end of the stream. All right. Saying Tokina looks like a bigger lens to me. We're talking little bits of nothing. They're just being real frank with you. Talking little bits of nothing. So let's say this is the Viltrox 20mm. This is the kit lens. Let's take the bottom off. Let's take the other bits off. Just bare bone lens. Like, it's really it's millimeters of nothing. Like, difference between these kinds of lenses, like when you look at them, it's micro differences when you're picking them apart spec sheet wise online, but in person, we're not talking about any real difference. Like, oh, well, this one's heavier. It's millimeters of nothing, micrograms of nothing. Like, your wallet probably is heavier. You know what I'm saying? Like, like I promise, it's not even at a wider diameter. Means nothing unless you're trying to stay within a certain diameter on the front for like your lens filters and stuff like that. And even then, step up rings. Like, I'm not seeing the problem here, my brother. So help me out with what you're struggling with, because I'm not seeing these being problems, but let me know how that is a concern for you. If you want to unpack that a little bit more, then we definitely can. All right. Question, any particular reason yes, versus 150 or 150, 160 for the shutter speed? So this is in reference to, why am I using such a high shutter speed? See us up here, 4K, 24p. The 24p, ideally, using the video rules, I would be at 1/48th or 1/50th, depending on whatever you can get close to. However, down hither, 119.9, I am now at a ridiculously high shutter speed because of the anti-flicker settings into the camera. New feature on the ZVE1, remember? So what that does is that light back there. If you look at older streams, older videos, you'll see a slight banding or those slight black bars. This is why I have the picture frame, the book, different stuff up there or whatever, just kind of further diffuse that a bit more. But you would still see it. If I would go back there, some B-roll I just recorded with the ZV-10 that has, I can't think of what, I think it was the 10 to 18. That has it. That has it in there. It's ugly. But it is what it is. But it's higher because it gets rid of that. So that's just what the anti-flicker settings, you point it at the light that you need, and then it'll read it, adjust it, and then that's it. You don't have to worry about nothing else. It's done. So that's why it's at a higher, more ridiculous number. That's what the anti-flicker settings would do. Same thing like you use it for photos. Little known, best kept secret, use it for photos. Gets rid of banding in those too. It's a fantastic setting. But yeah, it will jump that shutter speed or make it look a bit more ridiculous than most people are used to. But that's why. So it's not just a random number I picked. That's the anti-flicker setting and the number that it picked for me, just so I don't have any banding with the lights and stuff that I'm using. I might be able to pull up that video. I just put the SD card in. Let us see. Let's see if I can pull this. Yep, Here we go. I'm going to drop it to here, add as an animated overlay. All right, so this is some B-roll that I just recorded. I was trying to get some shots of the lens. So this is the complete raw file. But if you look in the back, you see that banding? That is a result of not having a video light behind the bookshelf and the anti-flicker setting not being available in the camera. So the settings are adjusted for the visual look. We're gonna slow it down anyway so it'll be even less visible. But if I just let this video loop, you'll see that banding. Like I said, this is the complete raw file, start to bottom, just that full file straight off the SD card. But you see how you're getting that rolling? That's what we're avoiding using the anti-flicker setting on the camera. So like I said, once we slow that down or whatever, adjust the exposure, make some other little minor tweaks or whatever to the raw file that you're looking at right now, it will look less noticeable, but like now that you see it, you will see it. So if you look real quick, you'll see it. See how you're getting all them black bars? That's not, you look now, not visible. I'm gonna punch in with the magic of Ecamm. You don't see that over there. You don't see none of it. None of that. Right over yonder. You don't see none of it. So that's why that is higher than what you're used to seeing. Saying never mind, but last you're supposed to start. Yep, there you go. Saying coral. What? What are you trying to say or make fun of me about? Because I know I didn't say something probably super country. Saying in my edits, I hit auto on so many things, especially since my content, the music is the most important. I get that. A lot of times you can put it in auto, especially like there are some times when you're moving fast. Something is happening faster than maybe you even have time to play or adjust with the settings, or you just want to hit record and figure it out later. Auto can be fine. If you're completely brand new to video, you're ready to start recording, the amount of time that it would take trying to get every little nook and cranny of all this different stuff right can be annoying, and you lose the oomph and the energy and excitement that you had for like sitting down to record, and you're like, oh, this ain't right, this ain't right, this ain't right. So what I'll usually recommend, put it in auto, still adjust, do all the settings like I'll do in teaching the videos where I do like exhaustive walkthrough. Or now with these newer ones, I'm just making the profile so you can buy them for like $5 or $7 or whatever they are on the website. It's like buy them, download them, install them into your camera, everything's set up. Let's say you still know nothing about nothing with video. You at least have the settings now so you have time to figure out all the stuff that's been set on the camera for you. But now you have those buttons set where the automatic white balance, you see it looks like a certain way and be like, oh, that looks pretty good, lock it. Exposure looks pretty good, you know, looks kind of like how it is now, lock it. That way it don't change the rest of the time that you have the camera on. If you turn the camera off, that's on you. You gotta figure it out again. But sometimes you moving fast, something happens, whatever, you can put it in auto and then lock the white balance, lock the exposure settings so other stuff don't change. And then it's just usually like the down directional button is what I usually have those set to, and then the trash can button. So that's usually like what I'll recommend. So saying, okay, you have it turned on purposely. I thought you didn't know it was showing. Yes, all the icons are, this is not a frame. This is like the real stuff. It's like no SD card. It's not a looping video. It's real. I'm saying my lenses are some thick boys. I like, man, look, you add some gaffer's tape or something. I don't know what to help you. You put some gorilla tape on there. And you want a big old kerchunker. Hey, may the Lord bless you and keep you always. Put some duct tape around it or something. I don't know what to tell you. So I pay extra for the anti-reflective coating. Yep. Saying I'll write down an yes, tell them. Even if, here's another thing. Some doctors, eye doctor shops, I cannot think of the proper terminology at this moment. Some of them, it's not going to be the best, but sometimes they can do one or two things. It's not best. They can try to re-add it after you have your glasses, but it's just at that point they recommend the second thing, which is you can get the same lenses, keep your frames, but reorder the lenses and have them add that and ask what the difference in price would be now that you need it. Because sometimes that may be the deal. And if you're used to working with the same, is it the optometrist? Yeah, opticals, optometrist, I think is the proper terminology there. Sometimes they can maybe see about what they can do price wise, but see, like, I just need these frames. I want to keep the frames, same exact stuff we got last time, but now I want to see, can I get the anti-reflective coating? What would it cost just to solely get the glass for the lenses, and see what they say. Sometimes they can hook you up and they're like, oh, we so sorry, we didn't know. It's like, we'll reorder them for you. It may still just be an extra 30 or 40 bucks. If you have insurance or something like that, the insurance might be able to cover it with a new exam. So if it's only been 6 months, but now you're into video, it may be worth getting the new exam because your insurance and stuff is covered if you have it. But like I said, if not, what you can do is, because again, I have astigmatism in both eyes. So I don't got no pretty glasses just to be wearing for fun. Like, I need to see. And so what I will do is you call and you get the prescription numbers from your doctor's office. Okay, they send that to you via email, whatever. You now put those numbers, the same thing I did for these frames. These are just video frames that I wind up becoming my main pair of glasses, because those other ones didn't have them. So I'm like, what are my prescription numbers? And when you're at the office, you could just have them give you that stuff right then and there, or go in and get it. It's no stress to get that stuff. Or you don't need insurance. Like, no, you went to this place. Hey, can I get my numbers, my prescription numbers? They'd be like, okay, it's this number, blah, blah, blah. Tell you on the phone, whatever. So however you get them. Then go online, put those numbers in. The only thing that you need to figure out is the framing for how wide or how whatever it is. Most of these things now, we got cameras, y'all. This is how I did this. I sat here. It was like, we can now do virtual reality glass fittings for your thing. The first number that they had was too wide, and I can see the actual glasses on my face. I condensed it down until it was the right number. I compared it with my other frames. You can do all of this, and it is exact, and it was perfect, just like it is now. So it's super easy. And I've been doing that for 25 years. Getting the anti-reflective coating. Yeah, especially work on computers and stuff. What's up, Ravens Talk with the Yolanda? Good to see you. Glad that you are here. Saying APS-C, Canon 60D, Casey Neistat. Yeah. Neistat made it popular. And the 60D was like that go-to camera. It was the A7S. Well, I ain't gonna give it all that. I would say it's the A7 III of its day. The Canon 60D was the A7 III of its day. It was legit. Saying I'm still rocking the ZV-1 and learning stuff every day. Also, I've been enjoying my dad's old Minolta Masm 7000 film camera. Film cameras are making a comeback, 100%. I love it. And you know what? I saw you at Ecamm Creator Camp, and I was glad to see that you had your ZV-1. You had a UHS 2 SD card in there for some reason. Overkill. But I'm like, okay, I'm not going to judge. I didn't say that. I was just like, for whatever reason, my brain remembered that little fact. But I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. Bring your camera. You go to an event, bring your camera. Bring your camera. You don't have to bring your whole gear. Don't bring a whole book back. You will never use it. One lens, one camera, little light. That's it, right? We're now at the segment where I want to switch out my dock pop. Been undressing my mic all day. I usually keep that muted, but I didn't feel like it now. Question, what's your opinion on the Tamron 28-200 f2.8 5.6 lens? I think Tamron makes amazing lenses. I think their minimum focusing distance is a joy to experience, and so the 28-200 is a fine lens. I don't like the variable aperture range. So as you're zooming in and out, it changes. That I don't like. But depending on what scenario that you're in, it may not matter. You know what I'm saying? Like for some stuff, it's like you're not going to do everything at a f2.8. You know, it's like, so you want the deeper depth of field because you don't want to just see like basketball, for example. You don't just want to see that player. You want that scene in focus sometimes. Sometimes a too shallow telephoto lens is just, it don't add up anyway. So sometimes you're at those higher ranges anyway. So it's not really a loss, but at the same time, it's like, I want the options. I'm spoiled. I'm spoiled when it comes to f2.8 when it comes to telephotos, because that freaking Sony 70 to 200 f2.8 was it a Mark II lens? The best telephoto lens I've tried. Freaking magic, the optics on it. So Tamron does an amazing job with their stuff. But I'm biased at this point now because I've tried what I've fallen in love with optically. But it's still a fantastic lens. There's nothing wrong with it. I just don't like the variable apertures personally, but it's nothing wrong with that. If you're gonna be up there anyway, it is what it is. My first Friday live as an unemployed person. Freedom is sweet. You know, I remember you talking about that, April. So kudos to you. Congrats on your journey and get it started on it. Just keep having faith and believing in yourself and moving forward, doing what you got to do. Do what you got to do. Optometrist. Yes, optometrist. Thank you very much. So my lens so thin, they protrude beyond the frame towards, no, protrude. Okay, beyond the frame towards my eyes. And I didn't know they were really that thick. Well, here's my thing. If your glasses, though, are that thick, it is what it is. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. We all got different ranges for our eyes. Whatever it takes to see at this point. It's like the older you get, it's like whatever it takes to see. Josh, good to see you. Glad that you're here. Saying hi, Diana. Debating on downgrading the ZVE1 to the ZVE10 Mark II. I've only used it for my office talking head and streaming like you. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. Especially if the difference is in this case is you have experience with it to make a better educated decision for your intended use case. It's a difference when you think you're going to use it this way. I know I'm going to use this, like these things are coming into play in your imagining of the scenario. Then you get the camera and you like, this is fine. I like it. Looks great. But now you like, this might be overkill. I've been using this for some time and now I think this will better suit my needs. Nothing wrong with that. Because the one thing for sure, buying any camera is going to get you is understanding for your use case. So there's nothing wrong with that. If you like this is overkill. Only difference is whatever lenses that you're using. If it's like, let's say a 30, 35 or whatever, even 20 millimeters, you may find yourself needing to back that up. I don't know if the camera is against a wall or anything like that. You just maybe need to back up a little bit. That's all. Or like in this case, mine is recessed into the closet. And so I could back up if I put, let's say the ZV-E10 on there, APS-C lens. I just would need to back up maybe another 2 feet to get the same kind of a framing. That's all. So that's the only difference. If you got the space for it, or you're gonna make the lens swap, if you will, let's say like the Sigma 16 or something like that, then you'll be fine. Even 20 millimeters, still, you'll be fine. So it's nothing wrong with that. I have no qualms with that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you do what you got to do. Saying, Josh, keep the ZV. This is where, again, you got to learn to listen to thyself and thine needs, because it's not about which camera is better on paper, who has what, and what people are using on YouTube. This is what you're using. It's what you're doing. ZV-10 Mark II is a fine camera. There's nothing wrong with it. You're still going to get a lot of the same things that you probably would touch if the ceiling is here for the ZV-E10 Mark I. And then you have the ceiling way up here for the ZV-E1. But for your needs, it's like you still have a lot of ceiling between those two cameras, but you're never going to touch that stuff up there. What difference do it make? Get what you want. Get what's right for you. ZV-E10 Mark II is better for you over the ZVE1 because you have use case experience for it now. And like your needs, switch. Ain't nothing wrong with that. And you save some money. And you can probably either put that back in the bank, reinvest it towards something else. Like, you'll be fine. Like, don't listen to the guy. So that's what I'm leaning towards. It's hard on YouTube because it's fun. All this stuff is fun. There's even something to be said about having the camera that even some of your other favorite creators are using, and you know what I'm saying? Like, it's something to be said about that. Like, I get it. But if it don't make sense for your use case and you know it's like I could save like $1,000 or something, That's fine too. At this point, is what you want, but you have the use case experience for it. So, saying the mic, like we about to start throwing down. I was gonna say I'm dressing down the mic in front of the. I'm like, my mic ain't usually naked out here in these streets, so you know. Saying official Keith in Texas saying howdy. Well, howdy Keith, good to see you. Glad that you are here. Derek saying, what's the point of an ND filter? Also, what ND would you use if doing gym videos and talking head videos? I can show you, but I can tell you. Un momento. Alrighty. Just so happen to literally have everything on the shelf behind me. All right. So you'll always hear that the ND filter is like the sunglasses for your lens, which is true. And so what I like to do, this is not what I regularly use, but this is best for this example because I'm going to see if this can work without me having to get up into the stratosphere. All right, let's bring this down about here. All right, so you'll see this closer now. Yeah. I'm turning that number so it's darker. Now you're just seeing a reflection of the screen, right? So now you don't really see it as much. And so if I'm outside, great, because it's like sunglasses. But now I'm coming inside or whatever, I can add it. When I add this up to the lens, literally, let's zoom this back out because we don't need to be that close. If I put it up here, it's much darker, right? Now, as you make me get on my chair, literally, I'll make it all the way dark. So from ND number 2 to ND setting number 32. This is way darker, right? You can hardly see anything. So indoors, no purpose. Literally, indoors, no purpose. Outdoors, it's basically when you have the environment where, like I said, when we talked about settings earlier, if you're here for that, if I want a blurry background, but it's a bright sunny day, the lower that F number is, lower this aperture is, that F number, f-stop, is going to be way, 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 way too bright. Way too bright. The best way I can explain this without, I be wanting to adjust the settings in real time, so let's make this like super duper bright. Let's bring this even up even more. And let's see if I can do this without getting all the way up. Let's go to ND2. And I'm just using this one. Now you see how I look a little normal? I'm not as bright because it's way brighter. See the difference? Versus I take it off. Look at my forehead. Easy, like I said, hot spots. Always an easy go-to. So have it there, it's super bright. And that's just adjusting like the settings in eCam or whatever. So it's a bright sunny day. You're like, man, I really want to keep my blurry background. ND filter. Now I can keep the blurry background, still look normal. That's kind of how that works. Man, get me out of my chair. At least I ain't have to go under the desk today. Shoot. Last time was like the loop deck went crazy. And then the capture card was like, oh, no, you need to unplug me. Shoot. But that's the ND filter. It's an outside use case kind of a thing when you need to keep a blurry background or you want one and it's bright. That's usually it. Other times, even if you don't want a blurry background and it just is super bright, you have adjusted your settings as much as you can within reason without going to extremes, right? Extremes is just going to the far end one way or the other. So it's like, dang, it's like I'm not trying to go to an F12 or an 11. I'm not trying to go all the way down to, maybe you all the way are down to like an ISO 100. You can go no lower. Some cameras you can go down to like ISO 150 or something like that. Not 150, ISO 50 with the expanded range settings in there. And you're like, Dad, I can't go no lower. Sometimes your picture profile prevents you from going any lower. Maybe you had ISO 400 or 200. That's as low as you can go in that picture profile. So the only thing you can do at that point is either be in shade have something that shades that area like you'll see on the news, like with flags and stuff like that, or use an ND filter or a combination of those things. So that's where that comes into play. Easiest thing for most of the time though, ND filter. So that's why you will see those used outside. People still want to be in an f2.8, some blurry background. They're as low as they can go for the aperture, and their shutter speed is what it needs to be for the motion blur to be normal. So now they need additional help with decreasing the brightness using the ND filter. Sunglasses for your lens is the easiest explanation that you will hear, but giving context to that is just what I said. So that's why that is. Y'all going with JFK trying to convince you saying NDs are okay. Not this one, the other one. It said, Josh, keep the ZVE1. Saying Josh saying that's why I bought the ZV1, thinking of things I was going to do like vlogging. Yeah, if you know. And here's the thing though, the Mark II of the ZV10 is still good. I have my preference of like the dynamic active stabilization, and at this point it's one of those things where I like to compare it to a Walmart TV syndrome. It's just how I explain it. A Walmart TV syndrome is you need to replace your television. Let's say your regular TV is, let's say it's even a 50-inch, right? You go into Walmart. Everybody, like, first of all, everybody loved your TV already. Everybody was like, man, I love coming over to watch the whatever, the games or whatever, Olympics even. 50-inch been serving you fine until you go to the store. Just Walmart in this example, since they are what stand out to me is like having that wall of TVs, and you see literally the wall of TVs from a 10-inch TV all the way up to 100 and gazillion whatever something size, massive size TV. But it don't matter which one you pick, because when somebody still comes over to your house, they're not comparing the cheapest and the smallest all the way up to the biggest and most extreme versions when they're watching TV. It's either or, oh, that's nice. Oh man, you got you got a new TV. End of conversation. You know what I'm saying? So nobody's comparing it but you. Nobody has seen the differences except for you. And so when it comes down to recording, nobody's going to notice but you. You know, it's one of those things. So even if you pulled the camera off the tripod and you did use it for vlogging or whatever, OSS or optically steady shot lenses for Sony, like the older 10 to 18 f4, not the PZ one, just the older 10 to 18 f4 is going to be the go-to, because that has OSS. It's the widest. It would be like the go-to for doing any of that stuff. The rest of that, let it buy, my brother, let it buy. Let me see if I can pull this up. OSS. It's even cheaper now. This is insane. So this is what I'm talking about. This lens used to be $900. $900. $750, $780 on the low end when it was used. This lens is now $340 used. Some of this $580, whatever. That's fine. Like it kind of don't matter. But this is the lens that I'm talking about. This 10 to 18 OSS f4. Don't have to feel shy away buying something used or whatever, because you're rarely going to find it new now. But this lens here, fantastic. And it has that OSS or that optical steady shot. This is going to be the go-to still, I think, over the 10 to 20, because I talked about the PZ issue earlier if you want to use clear and resume or whatever. But beyond that, this has OSS in it. So you want to vlog or whatever the case is, you want to go past the kit lens, that would be my highest recommendation, even over the Sigma 10 to 18 f2.8 amazing lens. All right. Same question. I recently found out that the Cineback already have the small rig cage for the ZV-10. Do you think it's compatible with the ZV cameras? Just, yeah. So he made one. I showed this last week. The Cineback. So he had the one he made that is for the he originally made it working with the, not this version, because this is this version is probably like a version 6 or 7 implementation for him. What he's selling now. So now he's able to make it fit different ones. The only difference between the top and bottom frame is getting it to be flush. Otherwise, you can use some other adapters and stuff to extend that, but he's making them custom for the different models. But the version that you would want to get, like, see, so now you see, like, he's got the R5C, FX3, like he has them for all these different variations and stuff like that. He's making it more specific. But the original Cineback, if you go to the A7C model, is what he made it for. It was the A7C Mark I, and it was for the ZV-E1 that he used it on. So when I saw him debut it, he was using it on the ZV-E1. So what this is basically, he's not selling this version right now, but this is the first sellable version that he made, where you can buy the STL files, get them printed at some 3D printer, like, or a library or something like that. So you pay, you download the files, and so you're having to buy all of the different other small rig components, that top cheese plate, the side cheese plates, all of that stuff to make it one flush unit. You don't get, for this one, you do not get the V mount and all that other stuff. It literally is just these components. So you can buy it for that, and this will fit the ZV-E1 and the A7C, because that's the original versions that he modeled it for. So he has his YouTube videos talking about this as well. So I'm gonna drop this in the chat real quick if y'all want to check this out. Share, give a little love to our brother Caleb Pike, brother from another mother. So I'm gonna drop that in the chat. But yeah, if you want that, you can. Now he's making it specific to the different models. So specifically, this month is where you're gonna see it for the ZV-E1. And because the framing, the body framing is so similar, I would venture to say the ZV-E1 and the ZV-E10 Mark II camera bodies, even the Mark I is gonna be oddly close height-wise, because that's the only difference height-wise. It's not a width kind of a thing, it's more of a height thing. When you get the ZV-E1, it probably will work fine. More or less, it probably will work fine because of the cage. Cage is not going to vary that much. So once this one comes out for the ZV-E1 this month, and he's been on track, I get these emails for him. He's been doing really good with this iterations. But the same way you see it's like the A7 series fits all of these variations, it's because the heights of the cameras aren't changing that much. So when the ZV-E1 version comes out, you'll probably see that also work for the ZV-E10 Mark I, as well as the A7C cameras and stuff like that, or whatever. He'll probably get more specific into those, but all these are coming this month. So it'll be, you only got like a little bit of time left if you want to wait, but this will be like, you can get this now though, and just print it yourself if you got a 3D printer or like access to one or whatever. Saying, wow, somebody turned off the lights. Oh, the indie filter. Saying, dear Diane, don't say forehead again, resisting the urge to make a, trying to change. You know what? You just need to start living right. That's all that is. You just need to start living right. All right? Start living right. Said, yeah, the only video I saw was with the ZV camera for the ZV-1. Oh yeah, super interesting device. He's done a fantastic job implementing this. 100%. He's really like, and he was already into making stuff. I love that the 3D printer is allowing creators to make their own stuff right now. I have some ideas about stuff I want to make. I'm just not good with the dimensions and all that. Even with the designs, it reminds me of like taking AutoCAD classes and stuff. It just, ugh. But this is the version that's going to be releasing the ones. And I think what is going to happen based on the way he made this is these don't have the fan. It just has the battery unit, not that I've seen. And I think with the ZV-E1 variation, it probably is still going to have the fan, since those cameras more specifically deal with that, versus just the V mount. I don't recall seeing these having to do anything with the V mount, and I love that he added even like the switch in there. So it's like an on and off button. He's done some really great stuff, and he's hand making this stuff. So brother did his thing on this one. So I'm really interested to see how this new iteration is going to come out past the fan and all of that with the V mount batteries and stuff like that. It's going to be legit. But yeah, it's worth picking up. It's definitely worth picking up. Before I wrap up real quick, shout out to my brother from another mother, Doc Rock. You get the Doc Pops. Links in the description. Hashtag all the things if you want to check these out. This is what I've been rocking this entire stream. I meant to do it last week as well, but your girls forgot. And there are different versions, okay? There are different versions. So like the Shure MV7, these will fit other ones. You can get as close to your brand color as you need. I'm not gonna lie, I'm real partial to the blue, and then the purple is a close second. But as you can see, it fits also the SM58 and the 57. Those are those handheld stick mics. So even your church, nonprofit, or something of the like, event centers can be more specific. So shout out to my brother Doc to the Rizak for that, and thank you so much for sending me mine, because it makes my original pop filter look like trash. All right, so I have finally hit the end of the stream. The comments and the like, we'll have no more questions that came in, so I'm guessing we are good to go. I was not expecting to go this deep into the technicals, but I'm here for it. So thank you all for joining me for the stream. Appreciate you being here, sharing a little bit of your time with me as we share some time together. And that is where I'm going to wrap it up. We do have a lot of videos in the tank, just haven't been able to kick them out this week, but those will be dropping officially starting next Monday. We got a boatload of content, some great stuff that's coming. So I hope that you make some content this weekend. And if not this weekend, you just need to rest. You do what you got to do, okay? But remember to create, post, repeat, and I will see y'all in the next video. Peace out, y'all.